A tripod is something with 3 legs. That's a tripod that the camera is on there. And I bet you if you remove one of the legs, the other 2 will not stand. So the Abuja Accord was built on 3 pillars. It was a tripod. Number 1, disarmament. Number 2, election, and the restructuring of the security services. As soon as Mr. Taylor became president, he said he is the head of state and raising an army is his business. He didn't need ECOWAS to do anything. But where I fought ECOWAS, they should have known that it is the disintegration of the AFL and our security forces that led to all of this conflict and the atrocities. So Liberia's security sector has sub-regional significance. When Liberia broke down, war went to Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire. So Camp Johnson Road was a direct outcome of the failure of Mr. Taylor and ECOWAS to adhere to that last tenet of the peace accord, the restructure of the security services in Liberia to make everybody feel happy. But let me just get back on track with the Camp Johnson Road episode. After my meeting with Blamo Nelson, I went back on Camp Johnson Road. When I got back the next day, around 4:30, we saw troops deploying on Camp Johnson Road. The one with the tie-dye black and white uniform, how do they call them? SSD, ATU had the black clothes, and there was another U. They had surrounded the entire place. I think the first time I saw Chucky was there. So the ECOMOR commander of the buffer force and I decided to mediate between the 2 groups so they don't fire at each other. While we're doing that, some of the SSU people who were around the Internal Affairs Ministry opened fire on myself and the ECOMOR commander. So the next thing I heard, yay, a waste. What? Firing started. But the reality was that Roosevelt Johnson had no arms or ammunition. One ECOMOR guy managed to smuggle 1 box of G3 to the Johnson forces. Prince Yo had 1 bomb. So when they jammed us from Pepper Bush, Prince Yo stood at the intersection of Warren Street and Camp Johnson Road and launched the bomb, RPG bomb. He gave us a little breathing space to do whatever we wanted to do. The next thing I saw in the next hour was there was one Mr. Gardner. He had gone to have a drink at Pepper Bush, and then the boys brought him to Johnson. Mr. Gardner was shaking. He was afraid. I think he's a bigger brother of my friend Woki Gardner, and thought we were going to kill him. So somebody said, "The Congo man." So Johnson said, "So what? We're trying to see how we will stop Taylor from killing us. This man went to drink. Why should we harm him? Mr. Gardner, please sit with me. Nobody will touch you." So Gardner was with Johnson and myself. And we said, when things get clear, we can let you find a way to get out of here. But don't worry about whether you'll be harmed or not. So night started to fall. Tequia came to me and said, Judge Dwyer got a lot of arms. Why are you not giving them to us? I said, you talk to Judge Dwyer. You people are on this ground. Probably the people already disarmed you. So the shooting was going on. And then the news carried it around the world. My wife called and Madison Williams picked up the phone. Said, Joe, Madison Williams said, your wife is on the line. I said, give me the phone. Joe, I hear that Taylor has attacked you and Johnson. I told you not to go. I said, sweetheart, where I am right now, I'm not ready for any argument. I'm thinking about how we leave Camp Johnson Road alive. She said, may God be with you. The children and I will be praying. So the fighting went on throughout the night. By 5, Tequia was hit. General Tequia, by a BZT round. I mean, we were overwhelmed, outgunned, outnumbered. So I have 4 bullets in my 45. I said, these 4 bullets, I will keep 2 for myself. Because there was no way to go on the offensive, you were only dodging. But while speaking to my wife, 2 RPG bombs hit the building. So I said, oh Lord, these guys are serious. And you know, if you've never been in a situation of war, you will not imagine what it is for an RPG bomb to hit a small building that you are in. Probably the earthquake in California will tell you a lie. The house shook from the foundation. I thought it was going to pop out. We didn't know what to do. People were dying. The guys went on to public works and started killing. By 6, Tequia was dead. Person Gatti was confused, crying. Roosevelt Johnson and the rest of the guys went to the barracks thinking that they were going to meet arms. They didn't. They ran to the U.S. Embassy. And while entering the U.S. Embassy, I think all of us know the story, Madison Williams was shot. Madison Williams was shot. After the whole thing was over, the family wanted to bring Madison out to bury the body. President Taylor said no. The man died in America. He died in the U.S. Embassy compound. You will not bury him in Liberia. He died in America. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, as I speak, Madison Williams still remains buried in America at the U.S. Embassy compound. Roosevelt Johnson flew to Freetown with George Dwyer and A.B. Lincoln. 22 of the Ulimo JLPC fighters that were with Roosevelt Johnson jumped in the embassy, went through the barbed wire, got caught, and they had a late conversation. They slept there, and the U.S. Embassy people ferried them to Freetown. 22 men. They were staying in one room. ECOWAS or the international community didn't know what to do. But Roosevelt was carried over to Nigeria with George Dwyer and Lincoln and left the 22 guys in one room at Lungi Airport. I was left in Monrovia on Camp Johnson Road because when they crossed to go, I was still holding the body of Tequia. He was dying and saying something to me in Sapo. Something that meant we will win the war. Amutoladu. Amutoladu means in Sapo, we will win this war. I said, you are dying, you telling us we will win war? You, the warrior among us, you are dying. So I left his body. And when I got on the street, I saw a hail of bullets from both sides, coming from the Chief's compound way and from Warren Street way. So I could not cross. So what I did, I walked to the Chief's compound. Everybody was gone. People went in hiding. They fled. I said, oh yes, I've been doing my revolution business today. They wanted not easy if I survive this one. Because I didn't know what to do. Then a little guy came to me. He said, Chief Joe, what are you going to do? You know, it's good to speak the truth. I look at the kid and I said, I don't know. He said, okay. The guy went, he got a piece of wood, 4x4 perhaps, put it on his shoulder as if it was an RPG muscle, and ran towards the ATU guys. All of them started running. They thought the man was about to launch. So he gave me the elbow room to try to jump in between houses. But as I jumped on the street, the big bullets started coming at me. They were using 60 and the BZT. So Saddam, one of the Ulimo J fighters, came from nowhere. He had a G3 in his hand. He had a few magazines. So what he did was to drag his bullets on the coat tie, and they were picking up the fragments and throwing it in the eyes of the ATU guys. So that's how they gave me away and ran towards A to Z. I jumped in between the houses, and there's a house right behind MC. I think it belonged to some family there. I went inside the fence, and the kids who were in the house knew me. So they put me in. The other people who were hiding in the house told them to put me out. But I still had my 45 shining in my hand. So nobody could come to me and tell me, go out. They were afraid. So the alternative was all of them packed their things, left me in the house, locked the gate, locked everything out, locked me in, and the last guy passed through the air condition hole and put the air condition back. I was left alone, no food in the house. The guy only brought me water. He said, we're going to Greystone, water on start. I went in, my first thinking was to go in the ceiling. I said, well, let me go in the ceiling. I went in the ceiling, and one bullet flew past by my head, probably 5 inches clearance from my head. I said, bad idea, I'm not staying in the ceiling again. I went down. I was in the house for 3 days by myself. Till people captured the place, they put their checkpoint up, they were shooting people. When they were doing the killing in the September church, I was hearing the cries. That morning around 7 something. So I took the phone, I took the radio and called Jallo. I said, Jallo, can't you call the ECOMOD to send them to the church so they would stop? Because there were people who went for choir practice, all kinds of people were there. I was hearing children crying, older folks crying, and I was right behind the chief compound there. Jallo called me and said he don't think the ECOMOD people will go there. I said, oh, okay. There was a kid in the house who told me, Chief, they could identify where you are by your radio transmission. Please shut the radio down. We don't want to die. So I shut the radio down before they left. On the 3rd day, I wanted to go back in the ceiling, and I couldn't pick up my own weight because I had not eaten for 3 days. I was only drinking water. But again, the training that Kuwamba gave me in Freetown kicked in. Survival, evasion, and escape. I had to survive, evade detection, and escape from the country. When I finally decided to leave, because I heard a guy outside the house saying some of these houses that are locked, you know that some people are in these houses, and we gotta start searching them tomorrow morning. I said, God, you won't meet me here. Luckily for me, around 5 o'clock on the third day, it started raining, heavy thunder. There was no way for me to come outside, everything was locked. So what I did, I had to go in the ceiling, find something, make use of the noise of the rain and the thunder to break the zinc. There was an unfinished house beside the house. I passed through the roof and jumped in the house. I crossed to go on the bypass. Somebody spotted me and went to the soldiers that Joe Wylie just crossed the road. He's going down the hill. The same place I hit myself in 1985. I was going back there. All of a sudden, one AFL soldier appeared before me with the AK-47 pointed in my face. Hot. Who are you? What's your name? I said, my name is Stephen Sacco. And this AFL soldier I'm talking about is in this building as we speak. He said, my name is Stephen Sacco. No, I told him my name was Stephen Sacco. He laughed. He said, Papa, I know you. You can't tell me you're Stephen Sacco? Somebody told us that you were here, so I ran in front to save your life. So I said, really? He said, yes. He said, first of all, let's go in my friend's room. I went in the room. He said, they identified you with two things, your beard and your clothes. So take my t-shirt, cut your beard. He found a blade, he shaved me. Clean shaving. I didn't keep my Luther beard anymore. That devil around the corner, so I had to. After that, he gave me, I think, $20 Liberian. I went straight across the bridge and went to my sister's house. When I got at my sister's house, one of my brothers was a chicken. He said, my man, you stay here, they will kill us. So my niece said, so what you want uncle to do? To go on the street so they will kill him? It will not happen. All the men in the house, I needed somebody to take me on the ECMO base. They refused to go. So my name, by the name of Menyongai, decided that she would take me. She said, Uncle, let's go. Don't mind the fully people. They want the people to come here and kill you. She took me on the base, negotiated with one of the ECMO soldiers who had a lower rank. And the guy said, okay, I will keep your brother. The guy came to me, he said, you useless Liberian, what are you fighting for now? I told the guy, I don't know. I'm an engineer, I came from the States and they are attacking my people, that's why I ran here. So he developed small sympathy for me. I said, thank you. So I was on the base. My sister got in touch with me. My other sister got in touch with me. I said, call my wife and tell her I'm not dead, I'm alive. And let her send me some money. I need to escape. She called my wife and in 2 days, my wife sent $1,000. Only 800 reached me. So, this story sounds more fictional than real, but it's real. So I was hiding. I met Oscar Quia and his wife in hiding. Oscar Quia had a stroke, he was sick. 2 days after Oscar Quia saw me in his hiding place, the woman decided to call send somebody to Blamo Nurse and say, my man, I want to go to Negro Town. The plane not looking too good. He went to Negro Town. I was left in that place. The guys who fled, the Ulimo JLPC guys that fled, some of them were on the base. Lots of people fled on the base. So I called one of them. There was a girl. Her mother is a Mandingo and the father is Bassa. She was going to SDA. So my people sent somebody to be cooking small things for me. while I was in hiding. So she contacted this girl. My cousin Kai contacted this girl. So this girl came and said, I got a room, spare room somewhere. We can carry this guy. She carried me in there and started bringing small food to me. I was there when Shapiri left the country, because Taylor said he was going to attack the base if the ECOMOG people did not put the Yulimo J people outside. So this day, the girl brought me out. I was eating. The Ghanaian ECOMOG came in while we were eating. There were lots of people there. So when they get, no, first of all, they said all the rooms should be empty on this base. That big round place, I know free zone in there. So everybody came out. So what I did, there was a woman selling kobo. I went there and decided to buy kobo. As I was walking to the kobo chair, the Ghanaian troops started calling some of the guys. You, come here, sit down. They called the guy in front of me, he went. Then they called the guy behind me, and he also went. Then I sat down and ordered food and started eating. So they took 20 persons out, and as the guys went out, the security forces started shooting at them. They chased them, some of them all the way into West Point, and some of the boys jumped in the water and they shot them from the back, killed them in the water. So the girl came to me and said, you know you're supposed to put your wish, eh? I said, why? She said, when they were picking the guys, I was scared, but they took the guy from in front of you and took the guy from behind you. I said, that's God. You know the type of people which? God didn't want me to die at that time. So this girl, I sent her and I took $200. And I said, give it to my boys. Let them find something to eat. Those that want to run away and go to Port Waterside and cross, let them take $10 and I expense it, they go. As soon as they receive the money, they say, you see, the papa in hiding, Roosevelt Johnson sent her money, then you only give her $200, we're going to call the security on him. You know, Rabo not good. You don't see good Rabo before? There was a kid called Kadia Ray. The man brought a Guinean army officer on the base to find me who was in contact with the security, and told the Guinean that there was a girl, 24-year-old girl hiding Joe Wylie. So the girl used to come to school every day, you know, and carry messages around for me. The guy contacted me at my hiding place. They called the army officer, he was a Gisi guy called Tamba Benson. He was a captain. Tamba Benson said, if I have some small money, he has some ship at the Boma Yard that is going to Guinea. And I should get in the ship. He would take care of the thing and send me to Guinea. So I sent my agents on him to trail him wherever he went. They met him at the Ministry of Defense trying to negotiate to sell George Dwyer car. So I said, that guy is not right. So the guy said, what we do? Roosevelt Johnson's sister, Fanta, Kim, the girl who was hiding me, was scared. When Roosevelt Johnson's sister came, I said, I have to be transferred from here because they have made an announcement that everybody should leave the base. People started leaving the base. So the money I had, there was a guy keeping, an ECOMOG guy keeping guy over a gun. They call it the shaker. Big bullets. The bullet almost big like your tire. So the guy put me in a shaker. So they searched the entire place. I was in that big machine sitting down. I came out. This guy was a Muslim. He used to pray. Every evening, he would bring me out. While I'm taking by, he would pray. But I gave him at least $50. Ecomo are not taking pay for 4 months. So my $50 was worth 100. So this night, he brought me out to take bath. He blew the $50 out. And he said, "My man, what you got?" "I want to buy small agbeteshi, small cane juice." I almost asking you, Muslim, what are you doing with cane juice? But I was scared. I said, "Oh man, save my life. I don't care what you drink." I bought a cane juice and I drank it. When you got drunk, he said, look. Good man like you, you are hiding in your own country like this. Huh? The place where I am tonight, even the 5th commander can ask for you, I will fire him. I said, yeah, they can you working. But whatever the case may be, the people discovered that it was this girl that was hiding me. They passed through another Ecomo guy, gave him $300. They call him Mayor Pius. W.O. Pius. Action Pape. Action Pape. The girl didn't know Action Pape was giving money. So she said, look, I need to transfer this guy. I got the guy. Action Pape sent one of the Ecomo guys to arrest me. On December 1st, 1998. So from September 18 to December, I was staying in Monrovia. I succeeded in planting a story in a newspaper. I will not say the newspaper name. That I was in Nigeria at a very luxury hotel taking care of business. When they published that, the security relaxed their vigilance a little bit. The men in Nigeria, I was right on the base. Yes. So later on, when Pius arrested me, he took me to his room and called another Ecomo guy to take me to a cell because the security people will be coming in the evening to turn me over because he took their 300 already. So my hair was worth 300, but Taylor wanted me for 50 grand. Probably I'm the most wanted man in Liberia. But you know, it's good for army officers to be intelligent. The guy who arrested me told his friend, told W.O. Pius, let me interview this guy before I take him to jail. What did he do? Pius said, now the Ulimo jail people who hire here. He said, let me talk to the man. The guy said, where are you from? I said, I live in the United States. Where? Washington, D.C. What's your profession? I'm a journalist. I went back to Pius and said, Pius, you and I have been in the army for 32 years. We don't want to lose our pensions and benefit. This case is higher than you and I. That man I talked to, he not be small man. The man is a journalist. So let's go to the head office, call the guys who are in there, the big guys, let it be their problem. Pius said, that's true you're talking. They called one captain. The captain came, he interviewed me. I said the same thing. He said, it's too big for me. Let's go to the field commander's office. When we got there, a young Nigerian lieutenant who was a friend of Terkuya asked me whether I knew Terkuya. I said, yes. He said, but what are you doing here? I said, well, I came for vacation and the people are witch hunting my tribe. So I ran on the base. I want to escape and go back. Then he turned to W.O. Pius. Who gave you authority to deal with Taylor security? We have already told the man that nobody is here anymore. So you have take the man to jail. The pious who are taking me to jail, he got jail. The girl again said, I told you your wish. The man was taking you to jail, they put jail the man. I said, I go. So the lieutenant told me, look, we will not put you outside before they kill you, because we don't want to have a bad reflection on the peacekeepers. So when it gets dark, please find your own way. It was around 4 o'clock that day, December 1st. So the brother of the girl who was hiding me, Solomon, came to me and said, Papi, people have seen you being brought here. And good to listen to the young people. If you wait until darkness, the security will surround the place. Anywhere you escape, they will catch you. So let go cross past all the bomb fence, so you will go. I lost almost 100 pounds. So when I tried to climb the fence, I couldn't lift up my own body. The man put his hand under my butt, chunked me, threw me over the fence. He came after me. We went down and straight to Bannerville Junction, where I was hiding on Kesali Boulevard. On December 21st, I walked to red light. No, I walked on the road, took a taxi, went to red light, and said, I'm going to Sino. My sister was with me. By the time we were passing by Shuffling, we saw one big EU truck going to Sino. I'm telling you how I escaped from September 18. And it is a material that I'm using for a movie I'm writing, and I've done a proposal called Escape from Ken Johnson Road. So as we went, the EU truck stopped, and I knew other guys who were in some of the guys who were controlling the truck. There was a police officer, a captain, sitting in the back of the truck. I sat down right beside him, put on my little apple jar stuff, disguised myself, and every checkpoint we got to, between Shuffling and Sino, any immigration officer that saw the captain run, they came, they started saluting the man. But anytime they put their hair in, their hair goes, their attention goes straight on the officer. Then they will salute. Then the car will go. They say, let the car go. There's a captain at the back. So this man, God used him to protect me in a way. Because when they saw him, they never put us down. I got in Sino. When the car reached around platform, I closed my eyes, because I didn't want to see the carcasses of my dead. And the cars passed. I was taken to Pinetown, and I told them, if the government, if Taylor gets to know I'm here in Pinetown, he will send troops here, so I can't sleep here, for your own protection. So we walked to the next town called Gobble Rubber. After they cooked my blackfish, I ate. He said, Elena, cook some soup for me. They cooked the soup, the catfish soup. I ate, and we started walking. Another truck came and carried us to Zwedru. From Zwedru around 5, one former LPC colonel and captain decided to escort me. We walked for 19 hours. My feet got swollen up. I couldn't use shoes. When I arrived at the Kavala River, the guy said it was late to cross anybody. But he was an older guy with 3 wives. And one of the guys that was escorting me went to school with one of his wives, so he started keeping conversation with the girl, and the puppy got kind of uneasy. He said, I think I can cross here tonight. They crossed us. I slept at the border, went to Blolekin the next day, and called my wife. And I told her, I'm safe, I'm in Ivory Coast. I'm on my way to Abidjan. I went to Abidjan. My wife was taking some time to send some money. There's a journalist friend of mine called Venus Kona. You know, he saw me, I called him and he said, Joe, take any hotel, I'll pay for it, you are my friend. I went in a hotel, but I didn't have a travel document to leave Abidjan. And the only way I can get a travel document, it was not like Freetown where I faked Joseph Kamara and went to Ghana. So I had to go to the Liberian embassy. I walked to the embassy, the charge d'affaires then was Gifted Hooks. She was there. I said, I just came from Danane and they stole all my things in Trashville. So my passport, everything went. They said, who are you? What's your name? I said, my name is Dr. Emmanuel Sapi. I'm a medical doctor. So everybody went in sympathy with me. So they fixed the travel certificate for me to travel to Nigeria, where Roosevelt Johnson was. But the last lady who can register the passport or travel certificate before giving it to you, I knew her very well when I was in Abidjan. So she looked at the name and looked at my face and looked at the name and looked at my face again. And she said, okay, Dr. Sapi, please, I need to go for lunch too. I gave her 2005. I got my certificate straight to the bus station. When I got in the bus to go to Ghana, while we were sitting there, a Menyongai lady came to me and said, I want you to put my bags on top of the car. I was so vexed with the woman. My feet were still swollen. I said, you see me like a cowboy to put your load up? Then again, you know, women have a way of sending subliminal messages. Pretty woman. She was selling gold. As we went, we reached the Ghanaian border. Dr. Sapi was traveling to Nigeria. When the woman bought herself one soft drink, she would buy me one. So myself too, I went to buy a toothbrush, I bought her one. Anything she buy one for me. So there were some other Nigerian girls in the back. They started gossiping. You know, women like gossiping. They said they won't even know the boy. I don't know what the boy for. They started making plans in the back. So the older woman in the back came to me and said, my son, how long you been knowing this woman? I said, for 6 months. My first time meeting her again that day. So we arrived in Benin. She said, don't go to the hotel, come to my house. Let's go see my mom first. Went to her mom, went to her apartment. I thought she was going to face a separate room for me. She faced her own bedroom for me. The rest was history. The next morning,
Mr. Witness, can you spare us some of those details?
you know, Mr. Chairman, the reason why Liberians can still laugh and behave like nothing happened in this country, because this is the only country where I see the people have a very strong sense of humor. Liberian people don't grieve about the fact that 300,000 people died. So a little bit of humor is not bad. However, when I arrived in Lagos, January 1st, I arrived in Lagos. First person I met on Bar Beach was Prince Johnson, General Prince Johnson. He said, I told you, the men of Marine, they're not going to kill him. He and some people had bet that Joe Wylie had died, and they were playing soccer with his head on Camp Johnson Road. Just bring my beer. From there, I went to Jos to see Roosevelt Johnson. When I got there, I met A.B. Lincoln, George Dwyer. The first thing I told Roosevelt Johnson, let me tell you this, I'm a political activist. And from what I know, if we are to do anything else, we cannot use any name for the former factions. All of your tribal militia, Ulimo K, Ulimo Johnson, you know, all these things, we need to come up with a new name. And Johnson said, but Joe, you are the university man now. You have 3 sheets. Write us a new name, one of which we can fight. I said, fine. So I got down, National Resistance Army of Liberia, National Resistance Movement of Liberia, and finally I said to myself, everything else ends with Liberia. In Liberia. Nobody puts Liberia first. So we will need a name that will put Liberia and Liberians first. That's how I came up with Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy. Roosevelt Johnson, after escaping from Charles Taylor, he was almost becoming a bishop. He was praying every day. So he said L-U-R-D sounded like L-O-R-D, so we choose it. That's how the name Lur was chosen. Then I got in touch with my wife. My passport was gone. My wife said, go to the U.S. Embassy. I went there. They made me talk to my wife. And my wife sent my other passport I had in the States to the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, where I collected it. Roosevelt Johnson, my wife said, I'm going to my mother. She will take money from the church, send some money to you to buy a ticket. So just get your passport. I got the passport. My wife sent the money. Roosevelt Johnson said, please, we left 22 men over there. I want you to go to Freetown and see how they're doing. But then, January 6th, the RUF had invaded Freetown with 11,000 men. So I came from this one, Taylor wanted me for 50,000. Why me? Why you gotta send me into Freetown, into another war zone? George Dwyer, Roosevelt Johnson, Lincoln, they begged me. They said, Joe, we know you can do it, please go. Because we can't lead our children like that. The Bellevue flight that took me to Freetown was the last international flight. I was stuck in Freetown. My wife was panicking, calling everybody she knew in Nigeria. They could not locate me. I was afraid to call my wife in the States because I would look stupid leaving from Taylor's hands and getting into another war zone. Planes could not leave Freetown. So what I did was I went to town. I met General Kobe. General Kobe put me up in a guest house. I met Supuwu, Fale, Vamakane there. They had named the organization they wanted to run UDFL. So I said, look, get a name here. I brought the general sent a name. What you say? Supuwu said, we already sent documents out about the UDFL, so we cannot use the Lur. I said, fine. Later on, Kobe decided to use the Liberians that went to Freetown, who ran away from the Camp Johnson Road fight. Probably over 2,000–3,000 of them to fight the RUF on the streets of Monrovia. So I got rearmed. I got my own AK-47. I got my pistol bike, a new one. And then I was the only one who was armed in the house where we were stopping. we became part of the CDF forces, what they call Civil Defense Forces of Sierra Leone. So now we're helping the sub-regional forces because we are called upon to do so. And we saw the RUF as the Legion Army of Charles Taylor. They were not too different from the rest of the MPFL and the people who were fighting in Monrovia. So we were fighting with real vengeance on the streets of Freetown. I myself, one day we were in argument. I was in argument with Super Wu, and he said, "Mama, why are you holding gun? You always arguing with us in the house, and you alone got 2 guns." I said, "Soup, let me tell you something. We are in a battle zone, and there's no way that I'm going to call Maxwell Kobe to come and salvage me when RUF attack our house. So this gun I have, the moment I take it and point it at you, you have destroyed my life. I wasn't trained to shoot at unarmed civilians. That's not how I was trained. We can make any argument. This gun is for our self-defense. But I cannot live in this house without a gun. This is the war zone. Every night, RUF was shooting. So finally, Kobe went and decided to organize the hold up there. He called all the anti-Taylor forces because he was trying to convince Abacha, if these guys can help us sweep RUF out of the street, the only way Taylor will listen to us is to organize a Liberian group. Let me say here today that the LURD was founded by a Nigerian army officer called Maxwell Kobe. He paid the money, he assembled everybody, and he said that it's my war in Liberia. If Abacha does not want to remove Charles Taylor, he's helping, and the only way this sub-region will see peace unless Taylor is taken out of there. So the LUR was a creation of the sub-region. It was not an institutional decision on the part of the peacekeepers. Maxwell Kobe was already chief of staff of the Sierra Leonean army after he liberated Freetown. So we came in handy. And democracy was really threatened because Tijan Kaba was about to be kicked out. Thanks to our presence, democracy was restored to Freetown, and we helped to push the RUF out of town. I left and went to the States. When I went to the States, I was in the States, my wife said, "You're not going nowhere else. You're staying right here with us. Promise me." I said, "I promise you, Ma. I will not go nowhere again." I sat there, my wife got pregnant for our 3rd child. While she was pregnant, I decided to come back. I am not going to abandon my comrades at war. I'm going back to Freetown. We will finish the job, and then we'll see what we can do. When I got in Freetown for the 2nd time, some of our people in the leadership did not like the fact that I was in Freetown, because they said I had too much influence with the fighting men, so I could steal the show. So George West said, "You need to leave Freetown because you have mosquito spray. You are the mosquito spray people are talking about. So leave." Of course, George Dwyer had a little grudge against me because I took part in the Kuangba coup against them. And so he didn't like the fact. He begged me to go to Freetown. When things were stable, he came there. He didn't want me to be there. He thought power was around the corner. In fact, when LUR was organized, he said the chairman would be J. Rhoda Grahams, and you would be the co-chairman. So I told him, "Honorable Dwyer, your name is associated with so many things. I don't know whether it's true or not, but we don't want to be on the propaganda defensive. Honorable J. Rudolph Graham might be sick from the shoulder down. He's not able to come to Freetown. So please let's find somebody else to lead this thing. I'm not interested in leadership of this organization. I just want us to go home. We are refugees. We are 700,000. And I didn't want to start a struggle with George Dwyer, because you don't become a hero by subduing your tribesmen. So, with the power of my superior ideas, the coming of Jaido, Tomo Yaya, and other guys in the picture sort of neutralized George Dwyer. Kudubu Fofana, a Mandingo fellow, say, my man, George Dwyer then starting this kind of thing on you. I hear they put K carpet. So please leave Freetown, go to Guinea. All the people there will embrace you. That's how I went to Freetown. I'm in Guinea. When I got in Guinea, the conference, Kobe organized a lawyer conference. At that conference, the name lawyer was selected. That Vambakana, everybody attended. So lawyer was legal. When I got in Guinea, I had met 3 other groups there, Liberian groups. The ODL, headed by the Omen Vafi Sheriff, was based in the Masanta area, organization of displaced Liberians. Then Stamo Yaya and Chad Julu had New Horizon, new vision, New Horizon something. Then Cabinet Jane and Soko Sako had a JCLL. You know, my man Jane never does anything without justice. Justice Coalition for the Liberation of Liberia. But there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension between the 2 Mandingo groups. So my coming in, because I never took part in the first war, I was seen as a neutral person. So I managed to balance the forces and brought them together. And one Mandingo Pape was intransigent coming together. I said, if we don't unite, if we took 5 factions to Liberia, it would be harder for us to end the war. Let it just be Taylor and us. This is not a tribal war anymore. So the Mandingo woman said, my son, you are saying the truth, we'll come together. So everybody in Guinea got together and agreed to come under Lair. As soon as that second Lair conference was held, the politics started inside of Lair. They wrote a constitution for the Lair in which the military and the war come under the secretariat. And the defense committee in the NEC headed the war. Asa Nyambo was the secretary. So he used to call himself the director of war. Asa Nyambo became director of war.
Order. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we need order.
Of course, Asa Nyambo happens to come from the same area like those, so like George Dwyer. Probably he has a little grudge against me. So he went to Jumade. He said, you see, Joe, that boy, the fighters like him. He's the only man who can come here, bring all kinds of things, and leave with short trousers to go to America. If you put him in a bush to be anywhere near the fighters, he will steal the show. Dogs of war. So Jumade came to me and said, Joe, you know, I don't want you to go in the bush. I just want you to be senior military advisor and advisor to the NEC. You will advise the NEC. But the NEC was not fighting war. I'm military advisor. The people were in the bush 2 days at drive. I was supposed to be in the bush instead of the Secretary General, but the Secretary General was in the bush with the men until he and Sekou fell out. Sekou jailed him, Asha jailed him. I said, you see, I remain in the city. I can't go in the bush because war was happening all around. Then all of a sudden, Lansana Conte did not, old man Lansana Conte did not want to support the Lair. Taylor's attack on Guinea was a blessing in disguise for the Lair and the Liberian people. Lansana Conte got vexed. 2 attacks happened in Guinea. One 45 kilometers outside the capital, for the carrier where the Liberian refugees were. And when the attack came in from the RUF, combined forces of the RUF and the MPFL, the first people they killed were the Liberian refugees in that camp. They scattered the refugee camp. Then in the forest, they attacked Gegedu and started attacking all kinds of Guinean cities. I said, A fellow called K1, not the other name K1, but you are related to Jumande, very tall and huge Mandingo kid. He came to me, he said, look, I want you to meet General Bailo, the chief of infantry for Guinea. All the troop movement is responsible. And I know you have ideas to help Guinea. So please, let's go meet the general. I said, but you don't think Asha will get vexed? He said, Asha will not know. I said, anything will happen in Guinea and Asha ain't know. He said, let's go. I went to General Bailo. General Bailo was so impressed with me. And he took me to the chief of staff, Kaifala Kamara, as somebody who understood the rebel mindset to help Guinea to see how they could combat the invasions that were coming from both the RUF and the MPFL and the Guinean dissidents. So Kaifala Kamara was impressed. They carried me into Camp Summary to conduct a workshop on how to deal with rebel war. When I got in the room, all the top brass of the Guinean army were sitting there. And Colonel Bailo introduced me as a Liberian, as an expert, you know, in unconventional warfare, and I got some lectures to give them. So on the second day of my lecture to the Guinean General Special Staff, I asked them a question. I said, if you were a rebel and you want to come in a country and get media attention and international attention, what would be the first thing you would do? And all the generals and other posters scratching their head. They said they didn't know. I said the first thing you would do is to cut the highway. I went home. 2 days later, when I got back at the workshop, General Bailo walked to me and said, are you a prophet? I said, why? Nobody ever called me a prophet before. He said, the rebel caught the road. So he gave me some mineral water, some small things. As I was going home, I decided to put up my thinking cap, dialectical thinking cap. I said maybe there was a rebel collaborator among the general and special staff of this army who listened to me when I said you need to cut the road. But I didn't tell Bailo that. Asha didn't know that I did that. 2 days later, Asha came. 1 o'clock in the night to my house. Joe, the pape jam. I said, which pape? That's not content. What happened? Rebel cut the road. Agenda. So, why me? Pape wants to see you. Me? Yes. Okay. Let's go. I got in the car. We went. And there was Omen Lassana Conte smoking profusely, upset about the fact that Rebel was in his country. So they introduced me, Asha and myself walked over, and the papi said, my son, I need you, the Liberian combatants, to help me in the way you helped Tijan Kaba in Freetown. I said, yes, sir. He said, if you help me to move Taylor out of, to move the rebel out of my country, I will help you until you reach Monrovia. That was music to my ears. So when the old man got through talking, I told the old man, Papi, they want a small mission. Anywhere else in Guinea where rebels show up, just call me again. It will not take us days to drive the rebel out of Guinea. So for 4 days, 5 days, we're mobilizing. We mobilized. and raised 500 men in Conakry. They headed for Jinde. When they got in Jinde, some of the Guinean army officers were trying to collaborate with the rebels. So they didn't want to give the Liberians the requisite weapons to fight the rebels, who were just 20 miles outside Kizidou. The Liberian combatants jumped in the camp, beat up some of the Guinean officers, and took all the heavy weapons that were mounted on the vehicles and moved to the battlefront decisively. Firing open between the rebels. 5-hour battle. 120 rebels died. They fled. They never attacked Jinde again. We went on to fight over Gegedu, Masanta, Tiklo. By the time we got through with the rebels in Guinea for 5 months, we were fighting them, our capacity to win a war in Liberia had increased. And the possibility of Charles Taylor becoming history was real. Guinea could not disarm us anymore. We were too plenty, and we had 2 armies in one country. So they say, Charles Taylor over there, you go for him, we pick you, you cross, you're too plenty in our country, you cross. That's how we cross. I came back to Conakry. I was never allowed again to go near the Liberian border because it was understood that if I went there. So one day, a guy from the US Embassy approached me. He said, Joe, why don't you go in the bush to fight? I said they will not send me there because they are afraid of me. I don't know why everybody is afraid of me. My own people in the NAC are afraid of me. Everybody is afraid of me, so I will stay in Conakry here. And I will speak on the radio. I was doing the speaking and all that. Then the guy said, look, we need to set a press team in the bush there. This guy was working with the US Defense Ministry. He had resigned, more than 22 years in the US Army. His name is Bill Gobal. I asked him whether in my book I could mention his name. He said, I helped to save Liberia. Mention my name, don't be afraid. I'm out of the US Army anyway. So Bill Gobal and I were talking. Bill Gobal brought in this guy they call James Brabazon. Myself, I wanted to go in the bush. How can I be fighting a war? I'm the senior military advisor, and I can't go in the bush to the men. I'm sitting in Conakry. Anybody whose boyfriend or husband died, they come and cry on me. Their children hungry, they come to me. I was facing too much pressure. So when James Brabazon decided to go, I said, this is my perfect opportunity to get in the bush. So I organized James Brabazon's trip in such a way that I was embedded myself in the trip. The James Brabazon could not have made a trip without me. That's how James Brabazon and I went to Vonjama. When we arrived in Vonjama, James Brabazon said he wanted to come behind the law forces in Bombing Hills. So he was going to Zozo. On the 3rd day of my arrival, I said, well, I'm going to Zozo with you. James Brabazon said, you are a soldier, you can't ride my car. I said, no problem. We found one old Jeep. While we were going towards Masanta, a grenade exploded in the Jeep. Killed Lai Musa, 23-year-old Mandingo boy, who promised you are going to escort me. Lai Musa's hat was hanging in the tree. They said it was a mistake. But I don't have any tangible evidence to think that my own colleagues were trying to kill me. But one thing I noticed there were 2 RPG bombs laying on the flatbed of the pickup. And probably if Lai Musa had not jumped out of the car prior to the explosion of the grenade, the 2 RPG bombs would have blasted me, and no one would have seen me. I thought it was an attack. 3 days I stayed in the bush. The following week, I came down with cerebral malaria. I went to Zerikwele. I called one doctor I knew from Liberia and took my drips, and I went. That was 2002 July. And I went on to Conakry. When I got in Conakry, my wife had already received information that I was dead. Because people heard about the explosion, they sent information to my wife. The guy who called my wife said, they say your husband is dead. My wife said, if my husband is dead, I will know in my spirit I'm a woman of God. He's not dead. So, my wife keep talking to me until I couldn't ask her to send me money now. So I saw one Arab woman. They called Manuela from Morocco, who was deeply in love with a German guy. The German guy used to borrow my computer, but he didn't want the woman. So Isaac, who was with Manuela, came to me and said, Joe, why don't you talk to Hubert to date Manuela? So I said, you know what I will do? I need money right now. If I have to do it, Manuela will pay me. I have to tell Manuela I have some kind of dust that my grandpa gave me. When she blows it, the man will creep in her room the next night. And he said, how much you will charge her? I said, $1,000. That was my exact plane fare to go to the States. So I called the German guy to come to my house. And I said, my man, the woman likes you. The only way your NGO will prosper is if you fall in love. He went home 2 days later, they knocked it off. 2 of them. The woman gave me $1,000. I jumped on Air France, I was gone. I'm not a CMB. That was a 419 dust. I did not come back again to Africa from 2002 July until the Accra Peace Conference. At the Accra Peace Conference, I was in America when my name was selected. And all of you know what happened at the Accra Peace Conference. We played our role, but we had frictions among us. One night in Accra, Councillor Cabinet Jare came to me and said, Sekou is withdrawing the whole delegation because we don't want to appoint him as the next interim president. We don't want to suggest his name. So you send a new delegation. The conference would have been in trouble. Bombs were flying in Monrovia, people were dying. We wanted to stop the war. So, what do we do? I said, let's go to Abdul Salami, the former president of Nigeria, suggest Sekou Kone's name. Abdul Salami and the Secretary General of ECOWAS will deny him, and then the delegation was there. In the morning, we woke Abdul Salami up. We told him, he said, when will I get to know the position of the new guys? I'm trying to fast forward because I'm being pressured here for time. They don't want to question me tomorrow. Probably they need to question me tonight. So I will soon stop right after the interim arrangement arrived in Monrovia, and I started a few things. Abdul Salami said, you already let up. Just suggest the man's name. The next day, Abdul Salami wrote a letter to Sekou Kone and asked Chambers to take the letter. And said, when you are reading this letter, let Asha Kone be present. Sekou Kone, the U.S. ambassador in Lansana Conde. Mohammed Chambers took the letter and read the letter before Lansana Conte and everybody. When you come from out of the bush with arms, the new AU, ECOWAS, and other international policy is that nobody will reward you with the presidency. So since you are chairman of the rebel movement, all of you can share power except the presidency. It's not for us, it's not for you, it's not for y'all. Lansana Conte said, oui, c'est la vérité. That's how we're able to get past Sekou Kone at that point. But he was a small boy, and we just needed to run some circles around him to get him in line. Midway, when the conference was about to end, Sekou decided to come to Ghana. He still wanted to cause some trouble for us. He went to Nigeria, the MPFL people and him talk, and the defense ministry position that was allotted to Lair, Sekou Kone sold it to the MPFL for $31,000 US, plus the transport ministry. So defense went back to former GOL. That's how I became Deputy Defense Minister. However, when I got, after the conference, we came home, I became Deputy Defense Minister, and I personally, with the collaboration of my principal, Daniel Chie, we initiated the ongoing controversial restructuring process of the armed forces of Liberia. I don't want to go into the details of what we did with the restructuring. But the thing I know is that the restructuring of the armed forces was given to a military NGO by the Americans. It didn't go down well with us, but since I was an executive appointee, I could not be seen trying to antagonize the Americans who were helping us. Because the Americans stood up for us at the conference, stood up for Liberia. Lastly, you know, America always doing the right thing last. They stood up. If they had not put their foot down, the conference would have lasted longer. But they did their own contribution. The idea of a mercenary, if you like, military NGO, an important piece of our national sovereignty was subcontracted to them. Civil society didn't like that. And so that's how the conflict started first, with civil society, who wanted to know what kind of security you're trying to build. Are you trying to build a miniature American army here, or is an army that will interface with the rest of West Africa's army? So questions started coming up. But the American defense attaché at the time, Ryan McMullen, did well. Honorable Jack Klein almost disrupted the entire restructuring process by sending information out to the DPKO. The DPKO is the Department of Peacekeeping Operations in New York. They oversee all peacekeeping operations. He sent information there that he had demobilized 12,000 AFL soldiers, so the defense ministry only needed to restructure 2,000 men. Logically, that was false. Ryan McMullen went to Jack Klein and said, no, the redocumentation of the armed forces of Liberia that we did showed that we came up with 14,500 men. So where is your list of AFL soldiers you demobilized as malicious? Jack Klein said this list belongs to the United Nations and it cannot be seen by anybody. So we went to Judy Bryant. Judy Bryant went there, he and Jack Klein screamed at each other about the list. And finally the compromise was for them to send the list to JIU. Then we sent our list to JIU. when they compared the two lists, only 125 names were similar on both lists. So this restructuring started, and if we put it in its historical perspective, the AFL was having bad time. It's an institution whose leadership almost sold it out by saying that it was a faction. Then there was the fact that Judy Bryant himself did not like the AFL very well because he was living with the Turbers when the AFL killed Turber. So they said they were going to dissolve the army. The AFL people started arguing, how do you dissolve an army that was created by a statute? You cannot dissolve the army. I kept telling Judy Bryant, don't use dissolve, say restructure. And if we have a small retained strength of at least 1,000 men around which we will solve the whole problem, nobody listened to us. So the army was divided into two categories. 9,600 war recruits and 4,000, about 500 regular army officers who were in the army before the war. 9,600 people were going to get their 540, and the other guys will be based on tenure and will work out some mechanism. We started working on pension system. But the important thing that happened at the Defense Ministry is not the restructuring, it's how I was able to tolerate Daniel Chie, and Daniel Chie was able to tolerate me. And I think if we are expanding that process and make some of the key players get comfortable with each other in this country, instead of civil society bashing everybody, oh, y'all kill people, y'all did this. You cannot punish all of the combatants in this country because they fought war. I believe the combatants did not start the confusion. They did not bring in the arms. They did not find the basis. It was the same politicians who did all of the three things above. If anything, those combatants themselves out there are victims of the war. Their innocence was broken, their education lost, their future destroyed, and we are still blaming them for what happened in our country. Instead of rehabilitating them and turning them to useful citizens to build the bridges and houses that were destroyed in this country, we are still patching ourselves. I think we need to look forward in this country. I believe that the fighters of Liberia are tired of fighting. And when a man is tired of fighting, don't push him to the wall, because he will be forced to fight back. The spread of weapons in our society today, the armed robberies, the insecurity that is created today come from improper DDRRs. We gave the soldier $300. The commanders of the faction didn't help the former combatants, because when they disarmed their former combatants and took the arms home, time for disarmament, they brought in their cousins who never heard one bullet. They brought in their brothers, because now it was a financial thing, it was lucrative. Everybody was looking at their pocketbook. So half of the real combatants of this country were left out of the DDRR process, and the relatives of their commanders were the ones that showed up with the guns. I wonder how many people care to know that today. The AFL is on record for killing 2 presidents and driving 1 in exile. 14,000 AFL soldiers are today floating on our streets, added to security officers that were retrenched because the salary, the civil servant salary, payroll too high. So as a result, we have 28,000 security officers and army officers today. We met at Kofi Annan And I told the Kofi Annan people as well as ECOWAS in 2007 that the fact that 28,000 former security officers and army officers are on our street grumbling represent a threat and could be a potential flashpoint for our country and destroy the peace process. ECOWAS needs to pay attention to the restructuring of the army. Do not leave it with us Liberians because we will take our sentiments into it. If Judy Bryant did not like the AFL, I think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf also does not like the AFL because she had a brush with them. And to do any restructuring process that is based on malice and grudge, it is not proper. We must fix this thing. We must straighten it properly. My appeal to this country, to ECOWAS, to the international community, I was fortunate to be invited by ECOWAS as a conflict expert. December of 2007, November 3rd, 2007, I went to Ouagadougou to attend an ECOWAS conference as a consultant and an expert. ECOWAS wanted me to tell them the trouble spot, the potential flashpoints in Liberia and the sub-region. And I told them a few things. The Americo-Liberian native divide is not properly solved. We still do not think of ourselves as a single nation. The national question in Liberia is not solved. We are fighting to create a national democratic revolution. So if ECOWAS, we have to wait until things break down into shooting violence, they will always send men to die, spend money, and the conflict will not leave the area. So ECOWAS has adopted a proactive mechanism called the ECOWAS Conflict Prevention Framework. And I went to Burkina Faso to vet that framework. I think it was an honor that they invited me to do so because of my deep knowledge of the workings of the militias in the sub-region. Because in Lur, we fought every other militia in the sub-region. We fought the RUF and neutralized them. We fought Dennis Mingo and the invading NPFL forces. We defeated Roland Duo and General Faso. We defeated Babo Zumariki and his 5,000 men strong Guinean dissident. The Lur must not be seen as a mere rebel movement. It was a counter-insurgency movement. A movement that is used by legitimate armies to fight other rebel groups. It's not a normal rebel group. So we neutralize all of the rebel faction. And Mr. Chairman, I will say here, I'm not boasting. As a result of what we did in the Lur, no one has fired around in the Mano River Basin since we put down our arms when Taylor agreed to leave. So we fought for the security of the sub-region, and I have ceased to be a Liberian. Any West African country I go in, and they say this is Joe Wylie, people practically worship me for some strange reason. They say, you are Joe Wylie. One Nigerian lady told me, I have my PhD in war studies, and for 20 years I was following you. And she stood up at Kofi Annan and told everybody that no matter what you say about Joe Wylie, he is an agent of change. And today, I want to remain an agent of change. I want to fight for peace. I want to fight so that we can all unite. I don't want us to think of ourselves as American Liberians who will build their best, steal money from Liberia, build their best houses across the river in Virginia, and then come to Liberia to hunt for dollars with their whitewash houses in Mama Point collecting rent. All of our ministries, these are some of the structural problems that are affecting this nation. you don't deal with them, please don't blame Joe Wylie. I played my role to bring peace to this country. I fought war to quench the fire of war. I played my role in fighting the illegal militias that Tripoli supported to kill out 300,000 people in the Mana River Basin. And ever since I laid down my gun, there has been no warfare in the Mana River Basin. And I think if you ask 100 West African citizens, 90 of them will consider me a sub-regional hero. Because I didn't just act. You are in the paper, oh, next month war actors are coming. I didn't act in Liberia. In fact, I was only 3 days in Liberia war. But what I did to advise, I sat with Maxwell Kobe and we tried to extract children, child soldiers that were kidnapped from the RUF while I was in Freetown. And because the RUF was using a lot of Liberians, so Kobe brought me in to speak on the radio to talk to the Liberians. And the RUF said they wanted rice before they can free the children. Kobe said, okay, we'll send the rice. What else y'all want? Oil. They were running out of supplies. Say, as long as you agree to give us the children, we will send you the supplies. When they took the rice and everything there, the RUF got their food and said they were not releasing the children. The peacekeeper opened fire on them and took the children by force. When Fode Sankor killed 25 persons one morning in front of his house, it was our boys that went to his house and did battle with him, not Sierra Leonean forces. It was the same guys you see today running up the street here. I can name a couple of them. Who went to Fode Sankor our house, killed all his body guys, but again they looting things, they were looting the man property, they didn't catch the man, he jumped over the fence. Rebels always loot. So we decommissioned Fode Sankor. General Jallo brought me a Storaya phone in Guinea. I was using it for some time. It was a war trophy. I was proud to get Fode Sankor's phone in my hand. One down, one to go. Before we came after Charles Taylor. We showed Charles Taylor that you can fight a rebel war without killing 300,000 people and come to Monrovia and end the war without demanding to be president. What does the president say? When Sekou sold the defense ministry to Louis Brown and Daniel Chie in Abuja, Janet was afraid to tell me. He said, Joe, I don't know how you would take this, but defense ministry doesn't belong to us anymore. I said, Brother Janet? He said, yes. He said, I didn't fight for 33 years as a political activist for a job. As a matter of fact, when you people were fighting your tribal war from 1989 to 1997, I didn't get involved because I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm not going to Liberia. I want to take the refugees home. I want us to professionalize the military and security services that Charles Taylor and ECOWAS failed to do in 1997. I want us to go home and allow the talent, the young people of Liberia, to feel free to go home. I'm not here for a job, Janet. I would become a sweeper in the defense ministry. And that's how I took up that job. And I've performed with impeccable record at the defense ministry. I didn't steal a penny. My Cherokee, while other people were selling their cars, I filled my Cherokee with half tank of gas and turned it over to Brandon Samukai. That's what I did. And I'm proud that Moja showed me not to be corrupt. I'm proud. I'm proud to have been a member of Moja, and I'm happy for Dr. Tipote. The problem in this country and the problem within the international community, and this problem it affects even the UN. And psychologists call this problem neurotic compulsion. To try the same approaches The same methods that will give you bad results, then you go and repeat them in another country. Because Sierra Leone or Ghana had TRC, so we opted for TRC. Because Sierra Leone had war crime tribunal, there are people who are calling for war crime tribunal. I believe there are crimes that were committed in this country that are inexcusable and must be punished. The disemboweling of pregnant women in broad daylight, the massacre of people, those people who are held liable. There is something in the UN system called unlawful command. If a bus is passing out there full of school children and your commander asks you, fire an RPG bomb on our bus, tell him no. That command is unlawful. If you fire that bomb and kill those children, you will answer for yourself, not your commander. So if we can see individuals who did what, and they can come and tell us. Mr. Chairman, you asked me to give my perception about amnesty, about prosecution, and the like. Well, I want to talk about amnesty. Amnesty is a contradictory category. On the one hand, it can allow a society coming from out of war to be stable for a little bit and put the so-called warlords at ease. That nobody's coming after me, let the peace stay. But then the contradiction is amnesty. If you just give a blanket amnesty, you are going to let people get away with broad day murder. We have to get creative and innovative as a nation and people. Because something happened in South Africa or Rwanda or Sarajevo, it doesn't mean we should bring it here. If the transitional justice system is going to be such that if you decide to go after everybody, we are going to relapse into war, it ain't worth it. Why don't, my suggestion to you, if you want to prosecute anybody, beef up our army, make it a really, truly national army, beef up our security, arrest anybody you want to arrest for war crime in Liberia, and try them here. And when they are guilty, let us jail them. If you cannot arrest anybody in Liberia, call me, I can arrest anybody except the sitting president. So I want to pause for a little bit and take some questions because other people have to come here. I believe I have done my best today. I left my text to delve down into my own memory. If I left anything out that I put in my presentation, it's not because I'm trying to hide anything, Mr. Commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, the idea of us taking our people and sending them to Europe is not good. Charles Taylor killed my mother and father. But when Charles Taylor stood in the rain, that day, I felt bad. Just like we said, Prince Johnson should not have shown the devil Doe cutting his ears. He denigrated the presidency. One bullet would have killed the man. We should learn how to respect our former leaders. The question of amnesty is contradictory. It can help us and it can dump us. If you want prosecution, don't send our people out. The most you can do, let ECOWAS recognize a court. And if Joe Wylie is guilty of any war crimes in Liberia, arrest me. And let ECOWAS try me. That's what I will opt for. Liberia must move forward The children of this country were denied their right to grow up in security and peace for 14 years. Today, we have relative peace. And I'm not boasting, I contributed to this peace. Yes, there were 600 men who died in Freetown, Guinea, and Liberia to come and drive Taylor out of here, to drive Babu Sumadiki out of Guinea, to drive Fode Sankor and the independent RUF, Sam Bukari. I will tell you a story about Sam Bukari and how he was neutralized. I think it was in May. I received a call from the defense attaché of the U.S. Embassy. I was in Washington, D.C. 450, or 450 in New Character. His name is Mark Ellington Duke. I said, Duke, what are you calling me for? He said, mosquito just crossed into Liberia from Cote d'Ivoire. He's going to Monrovia. And I asked Duke whether I could put this in my book. He agreed. He's going to reinforce Taylor with almost anywhere between 15 to 20 trucks of ammunition. Taylor was out of ammunition. He had enough manpower, but he had no bullets. A mosquito succeed in penetrating Ganta and Banga. You people might fight for another 1 year because he's carrying ammunition. So I said, but why me? I'm in the United States, call Sekou. He said, Joe, you think I don't know Sekou's number? I chose to call you. I said, I don't know what to do. He said, okay, he dropped the phone. 2 hours later, he chartered plane and he was at the Liberian border of JK, where Ganta is. And some of the left forces that were stationed around there, he gave them the phone. For the first time since I got in the movement, I was able to talk to a combatant from outside where I was. As they say, Chief, Kofi said, Chief, one white maker here, he said, a mosquito crossed the border, but we ain't got no logistics here. So I said, give him the phone. Gave the tutorial back to Duke. And I told Duke, they don't have ammunition. They cannot stop that heavy force of RUF and foreign and other dissidents that are coming to Monrovia. He said, that's all? I said, yes. 1 hour later, trucks were rolling from the barracks in Zerikode carrying ammunition to the border. They rearmed the left forces at 6 o'clock in the evening. Sam Bukari arrived in Ganta. 12-hour battle. He was never able to cross. And I told Mark Ellington Duke, after it was all said and done, that one day when you retire from the U.S. Army, for helping us to stop Sam Bukari, will make you an honorary Liberian citizen. Because if Charles Taylor had gotten those supplies, probably some of you who are alive today in this hall would not be living. Because that door-to-door, street-to-street, house-to-house, it was going to leave a whole lot of people there. Let me ask you one question. Where have you seen a rebel movement that capture a port with everything in it? Then they say pull back, then they pull back. Where? None. There has been no example. So the lure was not just an ordinary rebel movement. The lure worked with the international community. We went to Accra. We gave a bunch of civil society, political party people the power. And if y'all come and mess this thing up, y'all don't blame the former combatants. We are not interested in fighting. I'm 51 years old. I have 16 children, 6 boys, 10 girls. And I'm not interested in war. But the kind of know-how I have decided to use my knowledge of the conflict system to help the sub-region solve transnational security problems. So, gentlemen, I will pause a little bit, Mr. Chairman, to allow the commissioners the opportunity to ask me some of the questions that they need to ask. And I really plan to do this just in one day. I don't want to come back tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness.
Yeah.
The Commission wants to thank you very much for your presentation, which went into your personal experiences, your role, and other information that came your way that impacted the peace process as well as our situation. You went further to venture on the turf. A lot of our witnesses have not dared to do, but the kind of recommendations you've made to the Commission, we are happy that we could get such inclination on the regional security situation and your advice in terms of how we can keep this region and our country stable and peaceful. We want to apologize if you were distracted at any point in time and by our people, and if you left out some pertinent details, we hope you can use the time during questions and answer to put in those details.
Thank you.
Commissioners will be asking you questions, but there is a little gap. I noticed I would like you to elaborate on a little.
Right.
Jumande was chairman of the movement.
Initially, in
Yes.
fact, we changed so many chairmen.
Okay, and then later on,
Sekou
either
Kim.
Aisha or Sekou Kimi, I don't know which one of them were chairperson. Will you explain the transition?
When Jumande came, he came from Holland, diamond dealer, and we had no money to do anything. Jumande did well. He brought 100,000 US dollars and a Jeep to jumpstart the process. And some of my own people from the Crown community came to me, my man, making up Mandingo man chairman, to carry Monrovia. I said, there's nothing in our constitution that says Mandingo man cannot be president. If you people, the money you stole from the government, you can bring it for us to fight this damn war, then I will tell Jumande to step aside. Otherwise, I'm going with my Jumande. So when Jumande became chairman, he brought the money and we started Sokovi Sako. The first time Lur attacked, Sokovi Sako was in the bush with a man. 117 men entered Liberia with 84 rifles. Sokovi Sako signed the order for them to cross. I was in Guinea because I was not part of the secretariat. He and Azen never went to the border. So, Jumande ran out of money. Mr. Chairman, I want you to listen. Jumande ran out of money at some point. So Asha kept crediting Jumande money. It was Sokos B. Sako and Cabinet Janet that recruited Asha. So Asha was able to make use of her connections in Guinea. So when Jumande ran out of money, he could no longer support the guys who entered the bush. Asha and other credited in 9 million franc CFA, French Guinean CFA. He couldn't pay. Asha probably told the NEC guys, the only way I can continue is if I take the chairmanship. So one Mandingo kid came to me in Dolly, Philip Kamara said, oh, Sekou won the chairmanship. I said, he wants the chairmanship? Fine. I don't want to be chairman. They already neutralized me by keeping me in Conakry here to sit down with you and a whole bunch of meetings. Aisha, Chaido, Sekou, Supuwu, Fale, everybody, myself, Janet, we were there. When we look, resolution came from the bush, from General Charles then, to change the leadership, since Jumade was broke. The people ran away from the resolution. It was a military resolution. The thing about Laird you're supposed to know was that, Charles Taylor didn't help himself. He drove a whole lot of AFL people out. And that's why we are warning the present situation. They joined the Laird. So they were operating like a real military. They were not operating like guerrilla. The forces grew from guerrilla to conventional forces. The resolution was brought by the late General Sheriff, aka Cobra, W.O. Dog, and another officer from the Laird. So Jumande, they told Jumande they don't want Jumande, they want Asha to be the chairman. But Asha was the real leader of the Laird. She said, in our tradition, as Mandingo people, we do not go in front, only our men. So I'll put Sekou forward, you'll take Sekou. Sekou was only a driver to Aisha initially. That's how the resolution came and the new appointments were made. My position never changed. Senior military advisor, position which I never acted in, because when I went to Vanjima, Sekou had another senior military advisor there. For 3 days I met another senior military advisor. So I restricted myself to talking on the BBC. That's how Sekou was able to take over. When Sekou took over, he decided to move to Masanta and then to Vanjima. So now we have two different separate leadership. You have to remember that rebel movement have the town leadership and the bush leadership. Friction started developing between the town leadership and the bush leadership. And the more Sekou Kone consolidated, the more he was antagonizing the educated elite on the NEC, especially Cabinet Janet, because he saw him as a possible replacement. That's how Janet ran away and left Guinea. Soko Sako ran away and went to Ivory Coast. I ran back to America. Sekou Kone was in charge. But we told Sekou that the dumbo that we are beating in Guinea today, the soup is in Monrovia. So if you think you can run with this movement, go ahead. After he got out of jail, he went to Freetown and started liaising with the Kamanjos who wanted to come and help the Laird. More than 3,000 Kamanjos crossed in 2003 to help the Laird. So the Royal Guard Regional, just like in Kegedu when we were fighting, there were 6 armies fighting in Kegedu. That was Dennis Mingo, the Guinean dissidents, the RUF and the MPFL on one side, the Kamanjos, Guinean army, and the Laird on one side. And that's how Kegedu got flattened from demolition. When 6 army fight in a small town, you don't expect any building to remain standing. We kept advising the Guinean army guys. Charles then told them Do not throw all the heavy artillery, you will kill civilians. Let go and fight the people from street to street. They said, no, bombardier. Killing men, we want to bombardier from a camp, oh man. He ain't going to fight no rebel on the street. So does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
Very well, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Commissioner Coleman will commence with questioning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for your presentation. You have added an interesting new dimension to the whole story from my point of view. It comes to a point that we begin to ask ourselves, what are we to do if our brothers, sisters, auntie, uncles, presidents, and honorables have brought war upon us in the name of social economic justice? What are we to do on the road to reconciliation? I wonder. One of my first questions is, on page 6 of your presentation, you said that the Truic Party was about to fall, which means that there was a central understanding that this was happening. So the question I wonder is, why was that particular strategy still used, even though it was an imminent fall?
Which strategy, sir?
The strategy so it was like pushing it to fall, which led to the eventual coup.
When the people's eyes are open to the realities of their oppression, they will push any oppressor.
Okay.
The Truic Party, for more than 100 years, was in power. And the Truic Party was incapable of reform. To me, when I was at the university, I believe that the Truic Party was a collection of old and young men with questionable loyalties to the Liberian state and people. Otherwise, they would not have done April 14 the way they did it. They killed our people.
Thank you.
And they had to be pushed.
So would you say that anybody is justified to attack a government that is corrupt, even with arms if necessary?
The government introduced arms on April 14 by killing 400 people. So we didn't introduce arms.
No, but I mean, just a general question, where there is corruption and all of these other things that you're talking about.
The people have a right, it's in our own constitution, to remove any government. It didn't say which means.
Okay. No.
Hello?
Thank you. Next.
One moment. Hello. Excuse me, audience. Audience, please excuse me. We've told you we do not want any cheering squad in this place. No clapping. Please. Thank you.
Next, you mentioned on page 6 that a third force or an external actor was involved in that final downfall.
In a situation where the Truic Party was incapable of reform, and Tipote and Bako Matthew have personality differences, the opposition was not strong enough to overthrow the Truic Party. So there was a stalemate. That stalemate was taken advantage of by our third force, the army, which was the next well-organized force in our society. So the third force came in. I was dealing with theory there. Where you find stalemate, somebody got to tell you, even in election, they say you got to break the tie. The army came in on the side of the people and broke the tie and got rid of the Truic Party dynasty. I'm sorry, the Truic Party went down, but they had to go down.
Yes, thank you.
It has helped this country that they went down.
I understand. I was referring to the fact where you talked about cleverly manipulated and used by external actors from the U.S. mission.
Well, what I know, there have been stories about white people killing Toba wearing masks. A according to his wife. I have not talked to his wife. But I was working at Hotel Africa when the coup took place. I was going to LU. And I know that those men that did the overthrow celebrated, the whole PRC celebrated with the US Army officers that were training them from the US military mission at Sasa Disco, Hotel Africa. And I sat in their company. The conversations I listened to, I concluded and deduced that they were part of it, because Talbot was a progressive president, so to speak, within the international community. I said earlier that probably the US did not like Talbot because he was not the kind of leader that they could pull by the nose. So probably, and his brother was there buying up every company, insulting US ambassador, Steve. So what do you think? In fact, declassified information that we are able to put our hands on. Even the execution of the 13 men, okay, had to come from Washington, D.C. And the reason why they said the okay for the 13 men to die is because they wanted to put the fear of God in the progressive people in this country, the Amos Sawyer, the Tipotes, the Bama Fambulas, so that when the PRC execute them, they'll be afraid small and get in their shell. We were living in the era of the Cold War, and every progressive was seen as a socialist. So the US was trying to fight, look for enemies where there were none, because I don't see any socialists in Liberia. Malcolm Matthew claimed that he was a socialist. I don't think he was. He supported a free enterprise system. I'm not a socialist myself. I've never been. I'm a revolutionary Democrat.
Thank you. Next, you mentioned about an APFA as another group. Could you tell us a little bit more about that group?
The AFA, the All People's Freedom Alliance, was an extreme, no, it was not extreme, it was a left-wing group that was dealing with labor issues. It was attached to Moja. But at some point, Moja took a decision to merge AFA with Moja. So meetings were held. We didn't need that anymore. Because you have to understand, the leadership of Moja were right-wing laborers and populists. So they didn't want to see another splinter group going away from Moja with their labor and Firestone and all these bomb mine workers exploited and all these kind of issues were being, the workers were being educated on that. Moja didn't like that because of the right-wing, the right-wing liberal leadership we have. Liberal Democrats are the leadership.
Thank you. So in essence, they were trying to quench a possible so-called Marxist style.
Exactly.
I understand.
You got me right.
Okay. Next, do you know, we heard some stories about a possible mole that was with Doe that was part of the sponsoring group of the Kuampa invasion that could have contacted Doe and gave them a heads up on the fact that you all were coming. Do you hear anything about something like this in the aftermath of all of these things?
You say somebody contacted Doe?
That we heard somehow one of the witnesses that came, some
Yes.
Liberian business caucus or something like that. There may
Right.
have been some group, one person in there who could have carried the message backward to Doe and sort of, made him prepare for the actual invasion that took place because the way things went wrong.
Well,
If you don't know anything about that,
I
just
was a
taxing.
recruit at the time of you mean the 1985 invasion, right?
Yes, that's right.
I was a recruit. I didn't sit in any leadership meeting. I just wanted to get my military training because the way security forces were killing our people, I was better off being trained. So I was interested in it. And I've been accused of being a revolutionary romanticist. There is nothing romantic about war. War is not good. But, like I said, if we push a group of people to the war, they will defend themselves by any means necessary. So I don't know about any more.
Okay.
Anybody who must have given Doe some kind of information. I was wanted by Doe myself at the time. After I escaped the Soviet embassy, thing, and they arrested me and everything. I don't know. Probably somebody did. I don't know.
Okay. The next one, you mentioned on page 23 about an external intervention, in addition to the other mismanagement and other factors that could have caused a problem for your whole operation. Because I see that operation as being one that could have been the most bloodless of all the various coups that we had to deal with. So that's a second question. Was it that? And number two, what would you consider the death toll to have been in your particular invasion from Kuwampa's time?
Well,
if it had succeeded.
Apart from the 2 people that died on the bridge, probably I saw one other dead body in town. I could count only 3 persons that died from where I was. Only 3. So the people that died subsequently after Doe came back were people whose pictures were taken, TV camera was showing them jubilating, and people they already wanted to witch hunt.
So if it hadn't been then for the so-called poor planning, internal disorganization, and some external intervention,
right,
that coup would have been the most bloodless coup in the history of this country.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about that external intervention? I can understand the other issues.
We know, for example, that when the radio station was taken before Doe could come back, there were white guys, and I'm not sure whether they were Israelis or Americans, but I think they were Israelis, who guided the 1st Battalion headed by General Wright to come and take the radio station. So there was some kind of external interference there. I mentioned it in the interview I had with West Africa. But there were guys at the radio station and who were coming with there were few advisors, just telling them technical things,
And what were you talking about with regards to the so-called poor planning and internal disorganization? What really happened?
When you say you want to come in a country, if I knew we have an alien dump truck, which is just like the one that was taking sand from place to place in Monrovia here, probably older than Liberia. If I knew that was the vehicle we had, I wasn't even going to come. The communication set that family bought and brought to us, when we reached in Monrovia, they couldn't work. So we couldn't contact each other from point to point. James Holder said you are going to put up a booster so that we could communicate while we were in the city. When we reached Monrovia, I tried to call Kuwamba, I couldn't get anybody. So poor planning on their part. I don't know what Harry Green, James Holder, and Robert Phillips were doing, but these guys were probably civilians who didn't know how to plan a coup well. They were just probably acting on their anger against the Doe regime. So they did poor planning inside for us. Kuwamba himself, I asked him, I said, Chief, my knowledge of warfare is that if you go to do a coup in situations like that, you have to have a fallback position. If we hit Doe in Monrovia and we don't succeed, what do we do? He said, Joe, go on outside, we succeed. I said, okay, hallelujah.
Okay, another thing, we heard from a previous witness that there was a situation where Kuwamba was given an option where he could have used a political solution to run against Doe. But then this military solution became so attractive because of the funding sources that were provided and the so-called U.S. Support that was given to it. Do you know anything about this?
The U.S. did not support the Kuwamba coup.
Not U.S. in the sense of maybe U.S. government, but we've got the Liberians living in America.
Right, Americans living in America.
Correct. But there's this guy who brought the 50,000 and drank half of it. He brought it from somewhere. So this kind of thing. So I was just wondering, what is your thinking about that? I mean, would there have been a possible political solution to those issues, or was it necessary to just wipe him out? Because that act stimulated him to go crazy. And
Right.
that's when now everything just went out of whack anyway. The only way now was the military way. So I was just wondering your
Well-
opinion, if you have anything to say.
At the time that I joined Kwamba, like I said, if you understand military ethics, recruits don't argue. You are a recruit, you haven't even done anything yet, you are nothing. I was still on my 0 month. I could not even sit in the meetings of the highest up. So I don't know whether there was option or there was not option.
Okay.
I left my college education, I left my schooling and went there, and they put me in a camp, they trained me. I was not interested in the big leadership talk.
Okay, thank you. Next, do you know anything about Mr. Taylor's so-called escape from a maximum security prison in America? You did mention about the route he passed, but do you know anything about how he got out? Is it just a natural thing or what?
Somebody told me, Agnes to be exact, said that there was a mafia guy in a jail in Plymouth with Taylor who was planning an escape. And so this guy had to take some money from Taylor's lawyer, Ramsey Clark, so that Taylor will escape with him. And when Taylor escaped, the FBI arrested Agnes and put her on lie detector test. She lied, but she passed the test. You know, so he escaped through that means. If Agnes is not speaking the truth, was not speaking the truth to me, then I'm lying. You know, that's the story I got from her. So when the war started, Elizabeth Blunt asked me to do a profile of Taylor. And when I did the profile, Agnes called Tony King in Abidjan and said that Joe did that profile. Because the name I put on the profile was Emmanuel Sapi. I was writing as Emmanuel Sapi. So, but I did a profile. In the profile, I predicted that Taylor was going to fail ultimately.
Thank you. Next, do you have any formal links with the Honorable Prince Johnson? And if so, could you give me some understanding of how the independent national MPFL came to rise, how they split from the original MPFL?
I don't have links with Prince Johnson. In fact, when the Sawyer interim government invited me to Monrovia to work with the security, to help them with the security, through the NSA director James Square and Ambassador Peter Johnson, Prince Johnson met Dr. Sawyer at Hotel Africa and said, "So you brought Joe Wylie to town to kill me? The man is a sharpshooter. So you brought a man to kill me? That man can shoot anything in the darkness and you will get it." I think Sawyer had to bribe the press not to carry that story at Hotel Africa. So when they came, somebody went and proudly told Dr. Sawyer, Dr. Guanu, look, we need to keep Joe Wylie here. He's the only man Prince Johnson is afraid of. So we need to keep him in Monrovia. But the people at the Ministry of Defense did not want to take me in. You know, so I told Sawyer, you're not ready to use me to help stop this war? I'm out of here. I'm gone. I don't have links with Prince Johnson. But what I heard from rumors was that Prince Johnson, Ase Musa, and others in Libya had a plan within a plan and promised that Taylor was not going to reach Saniquile. The man who stole money, then he's wanted by America, how will make that man our leader? You know, our president can't go to America, how will we get money to develop the country? Dependency syndrome. You know, so they had a plan to eliminate Taylor. But the first battle group commander of the MPFL was not Prince Johnson. It was Paul Harris of the AFL, Basso guy. But in Burkina Faso, Paul Harris slept with Peter Kesse's wife or girlfriend. So Peter Kesse shot Paul Harris in the back in Nimba when the war started. For a girlfriend, two of them could no longer see. Prince Johnson killed Peter Kessler and took over the command and said the plan they wanted to do, they can do it. Isaac Musa snitched, went back to Taylor and said, Prince Johnson said, when you come in that bush, he will kill you. Prince Johnson then could not allow, because the plan leaked now, that they were supposed to eliminate Taylor. So Taylor said, okay. Taylor went to Blaise Campari. All the first month of talking, Taylor was nowhere in Butu. He was lying, as usual. He asked Blaise Campari for 150 men to escort him in the bush. He gave Taylor the men, Burkina Faso, Burkina Faso commandos, and they carried him in the bush to Butu, wherever they went. And when they got there, the first thing he did was to order the arrest of Prince Johnson. Instead of him calling the men to find out what was happening, and Prince Johnson almost killed everybody that went to arrest him. So from then on, the split was on. Prince Johnson then was between the AFL and the MPFL. But he had his people inside the MPFL who were supplying him with arms. So when he captured more arms, he sent them arms. And believe me, for that brother to survive between two armies, the MPFL and the AFL, I think he was one of the best tactical soldiers on the coast. Tactically, you got to give it to him. He did it. Because I was thinking this guy was going to get swallowed up in the process. But somehow he made his way and came. He was fighting the AFL ahead of him, or fighting the MPFL behind him.
Thank you. Interesting. Next, you mentioned something about Guinea and how you were able to eventually prepare yourself to come into Liberia through that route by assisting them in their battle against the Liberian rebels.
Liberians, Sierra Leoneans, and Guinean rebels.
Okay, so what I was trying to understand, because during those days there was much confusion in the news here in Liberia with regards to who entered first. Did we go into Guinea and therefore Guinea retaliate, or did people from the Guinea side come into Liberia and therefore Liberia retaliated? So could you like to put a little light on that? What you know
Well,
about that?
I think it was the ODL that entered first. You remember there was a one-day attack on Vanjima in 1998. I don't know, 99 or 98, but it was just a day. They called that Operation Banasi Bana. And it was headed by Philip Kamara, the late Philip Kamara. And that group of ODL were Alhaji Nkrumah faction of the Mandingo people in Guinea. They were closely attached to Alhaji Nkrumah.
So it was that group in essence then coming
That
from
did
Guinea,
that did the first attack
from Guinea into
for
Liberia.
one day.
From Guinea into Liberia.
Exactly.
Oh, so that was the basis why Taylor said that Guinea was attacking Liberia, so he then went back in there.
If you would like to rationalize that way.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Next, can you tell us about the model side of the two-edged sword that brought Mr. Taylor down? We've learned from you about the lured side. Do you know anything about the model side? Because they came from another southeastern region, from Ivory Coast. What do you have anything you'd like to share on that, or you don't know anything about that?
I was not a member of Model, but I was in touch initially with Tomo Yaya. We were in Freetown together, then Guinea. But Tomo Yaya and Charles Julu said that because the Mandingos, especially Charles Julu, because the Mandingos killed the Crown people in Bombing Hills, so there was no need to work with the Mandingos. They didn't want a Mandingo leadership to hear anything, so they would not be part. And I think it was based on that when the war started in Cote d'Ivoire, that they decided to use that end. Whatever they did there, I don't know, but they came. But by the time they got in the picture, probably 75% of the work to remove Taylor from this country was done by the Lair. So they had a cakewalk in the southeast. That's why they were able to capture 3 counties in no time. There were practically no resistance. The spies laid distributed Taylor forces who were government forces who were in Maryland. I think they ran from the Model people through a ship that they commandeered from the port of Maryland. That's so much that I know about the formation. We, on the other hand, said that whether Crown people kill Mandingo people kill Crown people, Alhaji Nkrumah and Roosevelt Johnson will not be members of Lair. In fact, we said no form of fashion leader will be part of us. So we took Nkrumah's boys, Johnson's boys, and creatively combined them to come and free the Liberian people. We lost 600 of them in the process. No one remembers them today, but I do. That is the reason why I wore, on the last day of the signing of the peace accord in Accra, I wore military uniform to pay my respect to those who wasted their blood to make us come home.
Thank you. So I noticed you made an interesting statement. So in your view, you see yourself as sort of a regional military force who was simply defending the citizens of this region from a tyrannical leader.
Yes.
Is that what you feel, I think?
We died, 600 of us, to do that.
Okay. Next, was there any space given to Taylor's government to make good the hope of Liberia, or was it that he showed himself intransigent from the beginning, or difficult to deal with from the beginning, and that led you all to make a decision? Or did that decision come even no matter what he had done, it was just going to come because there was retaliation, fact feelings from the very past? Could you shed a little bit of light on that?
Honorable Commission, he wanted us to give Taylor a space. He didn't give 300,000 of our citizens space. What space? You know, somebody told me from Monrovia, we don't have any record of the Lair engaging Charles Taylor politically. I said in my opening remarks here that men of Taylor's mindset leave good people like us with no other option but to use force to free our country. It was non-negotiable. Coming back to Liberia could not be negotiated. We wanted our country back, and we came, we got it, we gave it to y'all. That is why we are here today. Because if we are not done what we did, 600 of us are not died. Probably some of you will still be in exile. The older ones would have died in exile.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My last 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at a delicate issue of how do we reconcile the fact that we allow violators of human rights to become legal political leaders, only to have to then go after them illegally, in a sense, to remove ruling presidents. So I mean, I don't know, it's a delicate topic, but I don't know if you want to shed some light on it. Because when you look at the reality,
let me shed some light on it.
You know, this is what has been happening over the past 20-something years. A man gets elected, and we say he's the president, and everybody just comes international and say, yeah, great, very fair, free election, good. And then before you look, group, same people are grabbing and putting a coup against him. And another man comes in and you elect him again, and everybody say, yeah, he's good. But then, why couldn't we have found another way to just keep out those military leaders, these military people, or people who have been violators of human rights violation in the first place, so that the election process would entail people who are not known in any way to be perceived or whatever connected to the past? Because even now, as we in this new government, and based on your story, we see ourselves in another delicate kind of position. So where do we go from here? So I'd like you to shed light on that point.
The option we had to come home, Mr. Commissioner, there were 700,000 of us drinking dirty water in refugee camps in the sub-region. Those people who were so interested in stability, they could have done everything for Taylor to allow our people to come home. but the few that came home were being flogged by the ATU. Disappearances were happening. We are Democrats. I believe that anyone who wants power in Liberia must go to the ballot box. But if any sitting president killed 3, 4 of my citizens, and maybe 10, then and drive 700,000 people in exile, you don't think we have a legitimate right to get defensive and come and take our country by force? Because ECOWAS was here for 10 years. And Taylor, ECOWAS practically gave Taylor the presidency. Tom Kime put Taylor in power. It was a foregone conclusion. We just happen to be that small portion of Liberia that does not belong to the UK Mama, UK Mapa, I will vote for you. If you kill Mama and Pa, I'm coming after you. So that you won't kill me or my brother. So I'm not one of those UK Mapa, UK Mama, I will vote for you Liberians. Taylor did not leave us with any choice. And nobody told us any other option up to today. We are only thinking about an option hypothetically, but in practice, it was not available.
I understand. My last one. If we look at how to distribute blame and responsibility for this whole thing now, you got two schools of thought here. One is saying, well, look, all of us have fallen short of the glory of God,
right,
and are sinners, one way or the other. Whether we said, hooray, hooray for the revolutionaries when they came in town, or whether we held the gun to bring them in.
Right.
So that school of thought says, forget everybody, forgive. The Constitution already forgave the military people for all they done during 1980. We have a constitutional mandate not to touch them and not to even investigate. The Yakusumo says amnesty. Of course, the group, your last group, nobody has put any amnesty up, so that group is still liable for possibilities. But the other thought then is, okay, how do we distribute the blame if we're going to decide to do it? Do you deal with the people who did the funding and the vision and the planning, etc.? Do you deal with the military leaders who are in the field carrying out the actual leadership role? Or do you deal with the foot soldiers who are just shooting the guns, and it's not just really, but who are shooting the guns and killing the people in the field?
Which people were they killing?
Huh?
Which people were they killing?
Well, in some cases, like you say, your group was very lawful, and you only shot at the enemies, right?
They didn't mean that there were not excesses.
Oh, okay.
There
so
were a few, yes.
They was probably killing
But
some innocent
you
people
know,
too.
you know the contradiction of trying to abide by military laws and ethics is that you grab an enemy who is from the ATU, for example, used to beating people in Monrovia. But under the Geneva Convention, you can't kill the man because he surrendered to you. Then he said, I will join you. He goes into a village, and the same thing he was doing in Monrovia, he's doing it. That was our dilemma. More than 300 people were picked up in Beleyala who were on the government side. We were not in the business of killing those people that surrendered themselves to us. We used them, but they had their own ways in them, so they were hard to control. But the Human Rights Watch published a report called Regional Warriors, the lethal legacy of something. On page 33 of that report, it said that they interviewed 600 former combatants from Sierra Leone, Liberia. And almost all of them said, of all the factions that were formed in the Managua Basin, the Lur was the one faction that respected civilians. Maybe because we had lawyers, we had trial lawyers on our leadership. There was Labla Subuwu, there was Cabinet Janet, Fama Kane, and Lur had an SOP that at no point in time, we who were in Guinea, were in Conakry 2 days drive to this place, we had no way of controlling the soldiers on the field. We depended on the leadership in the bush to do that. All we know, when they capture one town, they call me Joe, we capture Vonjima. I look at the map on my computer, I know how far Foya is from Vonjima, and I start talking intelligently. You know, but we are not in the business of distributing blames. The first option you talk about is painful, but if it is the option of amnesty that will save Liberia from another war, you must pursue it. It's a judgment of both the government and the TRC and other people to make who are concerned. You know, if you think prosecution or everybody that you want to hold liable and distribute all the blames, you know, will put us into a mess, we don't need to go that route. So that's my take on that. But every rebel leadership, like I said, has three segments of leadership. The military commanders, then you have the people who are in the bush, then we who were not allowed to get on that road to go to Mass Center unless Asha approve. And the one time I tried to get in there, because I always quarrel with some NEC members, I say, you call me military advisor. If I cannot go in the bush to tell the chief of staff and boys, you know, don't do this, you do this, how can I advise the people? They say, no, advise the NEC on military matter. Because as Nyambo told you Monday, that you allowed Joe Wylie in the bush, he will steal the show. And nobody wanted me to go in the bush. So I was 2 days drive away in Conakry. So I prefer actually for this nation to think and be innovative and creative. And the first option will save us, let's go with it. If the last option will plunge this country into more mess, we shouldn't do it.
Somehow you're assuming that that's going to be the case if that is
No,
taken.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway.
I'm not even insinuating.
I'll let my colleagues continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Mr. Wylie.
Thank you, comrade.
You made a point some time ago. Before I get into the main part of my questions, I'll just like a quick clarification.
Yes.
Sometime recently, Dr. Famule appeared before this commission, and in addressing himself to the November 12 issue, the Kuangba issue, I recall hearing him mention that Archie Williams bought the walkie-talkies. Now, in your presentation, you said he bought the walkie-talkies. So, which is?
No, I think he was right. He bought bought the bulletproof vest, not the walkie-talkie. He escaped me in Archie Williams. Yes, I didn't remember.
Okay,
but I think it was Archie Williams that brought a handset. It was a cheesy handset that couldn't do anything, and it helped to spoil things.
Thank you.
I think Famula were right.
Although you said much about November 12, I would just like to ask you, on November 12, 1985, my experience, I woke up in the morning, heard the radio announcement, and I was in Banga, that the government had been overthrown. And I recall there were people running helter-skelter, not knowing what to do. I don't know what the situation was like in Monrovia, but I do know that I stayed close to the radio, monitoring the radio, and repeated broadcasts of the same initial broadcast was being made. And then by 2 o'clock we heard that Doe had resumed control of the government. I want to ask you, what went wrong? You mentioned in your statement about the attack on the executive mansion What caused of that attack? Why was it not sustained? So that by daybreak, apparently, there was no fighting. So what went wrong? What were the critical elements that did not fall into place to have facilitated the success of the coup plan?
You finish? You finish?
Yeah.
Number one, like I said, poor planning. Number two, we were only about 33 persons. The force was too small to have taken over the government upon reflection. Number three, external intervention. Number four, the AFL guys that came in support did not help the situation. Some of them were going to pick jobs. I understand one AFL colonel who used to teach us ROTC, tall guy from Lufa, went to NSA and sat down in the seat. He said, "You're the new NSA director. While gun was still firing, the thing was not consolidated." So there was a lot of things that went wrong. Communication broke down. I didn't know where Kuomba was later on by midday. You know, so there was a combination of things. Like 33 men, to me, were not sufficient to do that. The force size was too small.
Especially, but was that considered? Was that factored into your planning?
I was not into planning.
30 men to attack a battalion and expecting to achieve optimal results.
I didn't plan November 12th.
Now, you said that...
When I went in, the first thing they told me, 2 weeks from now, we are going to base. I went on the base. The rest of the people were in Monrovia planning and talking.
Granted,
all I know that the time for D-Day, they say, okay, the training is over, you're supposed to go. So I was not in the discussion part with the leadership people. I was into making sure I ground myself into proper military tactics.
So to the best of your recollection,
yeah,
was there a plan to link up with other sympathetic elements within the AFL to assure yourself of broader support?
Kuomba told us, comrade, that once we hit Monrovia, because I kept insisting to Kuomba, what are you guys discussing? What is our fallback plan? Can we retreat towards Cape Mount? You know, if the thing failed. The man said all the AFL soldiers are waiting for him, and they will come on his side. And all you need to do, Joe, let's just reach in time. Your job is over. The AFL will join and consolidate the thing. They never did.
So what happened to the logistics that you're carrying? For example, did you bring in the requisite number of arms that you would have used to supply yourselves or supply other sympathetic elements?
We had one big truck, so we were only able to take the arms from the truck and give each unit that were going either to the radio station, the mansion, Imperial Place, their basic load. The other arms were left in Medina in the truck. Our basic load, we went to the mansion with Emmanuel Dennis. Emmanuel Dennis led the forces to the mansion. Emmanuel Dennis issued order to fire at the car the Mandingo kid was driving, bringing our ammunition by St. Patrick. So right around the unknown soldier, that's where the firing took place, and the car turned around. The boat went back. So a lot of things happened. Or even the death of Bia at this place. You know, we just came from training. Nobody had first experience with fighting. That was our first battle. You know, it was dark. We never trained in the darkness. So plenty of things came to the point where we took our own men to be the enemy that was trying to sabotage the entire mission. You know, so plenty of things went wrong. But I asked questions that were never answered. And being a recruit, I keep telling you this. In military, recruits don't go to their officers and ask too many questions. No, unless you are allowed to do that. But I couldn't go to Kuomba and say, look, you have to have a fallback plan. No. I mean, I'm detecting to him is I don't know my rank. If we had come to Monrovia, they were supposed to promote me as a captain because they say I got college education. So in the army, when you got college education, you usually start as captain. So I was supposed to be Captain Wylie if we had succeeded. So, but before then, I had no voice in the whole thing.
Okay, if we should move on. You spoke a lot about your experiences in the sub-region, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and of course, a lot of interaction with officers of the ECOMOG High Command.
Sierra Leone Army also.
Sierra Leone Army. Now, looking back, on reflection, I would like to ask, from your perspectives, was there a concerted approach to peacemaking and peacekeeping within the Mano River Basin? And if there were, then why did it take so long for it to dawn on policymakers that Liberia had become the epicenter of destabilization activities in the sub-region?
The first part of your question was there any concerted
Was there a concerted effort?
effort at
Approach?
peacemaking
Was there, okay, let me say, was there a concerted approach
from us?
to peace? No.
Oh,
I say, given your
region.
interaction
Right,
with the ECOMOG High Command,
right.
other military officers, the military, Sierra Leone and Guinean military.
I got your question.
Yeah.
You know, Taylor is this guy, when he has the upper hand, his name is Charles. No, when he has the upper hand, he's fighting his ganke. When you push him on the wall, and you're about to root him out, he turns to Charles. So the man has multiple personality. When the Sierra Leone peace process was being couched in Togo, Taylor was in charge of the RUF. He had effective control. To the point where when Taylor can spoil the boys with money. You gotta trust the papi about that one. By the time Foday Sankoh got out of jail, Taylor had taken Sam Bukari, Dennis Mingo, all the top guys to be his boys. So there was a dual leadership problem between him and Foday Sankoh up to the time Foday Sankoh died. But the region itself was making peace, but between the RUF and the Sierra Leone government.
Yeah, before you go on,
Right.
since you talk about differences between Taylor and Sankoh over control of the RUF leadership, were those differences manifest in their actions?
Yes, they were, because Foday Sankoh was jailed in Nigeria. I think he went to jail somewhere else. And Taylor decided now, by 1998, to pump more weapons into the RUF, to take over Pujaun district, Kenema, and all these places. Those Liberians, former Ulimo and LPC chaps, that fled from September 18, they helped to defend Zimi, Bo, Kenema, and everywhere. So Taylor was, on the one hand, there was peace being made between the internal forces in Sierra Leone, but because of the external factor, that's why we say security is transnational. If Taylor did not support the Lomé peace agreement, he undermined the entire thing by, splitting the RUF to come and sit down in Foya. So when Foday Sankoh had signed a peace agreement, and General Brople and others who were with the Johnny Paul Krumah and the RUF decided to disengage from the fight in Sierra Leone and surrender their arms to the Sierra Leonean government and follow the peace process. Dennis Mingo, Sam Bukari did not agree. So there was a split. And this split virtually contaminated the peace process. And Kobe said, solution to the problem is that the only language Charles Taylor can listen to is for people to go in there and take him out. So Kobe was doing his own preparation. As chief of staff, he had a lot of logistics. Helicopters were put at Liberian disposal to fly from place to place. And let me tell you this, for free, Opa Benu, I don't know his real name, a Vi guy, was in Zimi, and Freetown was under attack. I was in Freetown at that time, at the guest house that Kobe provided. So they told Opa Benu they would send a helicopter for him to come with some forces from the border area where they had subdued the RUF to come and help us in Freetown with the RUF. Opa Benu got to Kenema and they showed him the helicopter. He said, but what happened to the road? They say rebels on the road. He said, so how can I be rebel then I fly over another rebel? So I'm going by road. They said, can you do that? He said, yes. Hang out number, try to stop him. He disagreed. He said, I will never fly over the RUF. I will open the road, bulldoze my way and come to Freetown. Opa Benu had 92 men. We were all scared for them that it was a risky mission because there were more than 4 RUF checkpoints. That ball got to every checkpoint and there was demolition. He bulldozed away all the way to Freetown and the road was open. And from then on the road never closed until the West Side boys went in there when they got disenchanted with the peace process and occupied the British scheme with some kind of small 18-minute operation, took their leader and they got out of there. But the road from the main highway from Kenema Bow to Freetown was opened by Liberians. So Taylor was trying to push the war into Sierra Leone and then Guinea. I think it was a planned thing to get Guinea involved and Sierra Leone involved. But I don't know about any other concerted effort because I was not within that realm of things. I was in Freetown. I wanted to come home. I was traumatized. My people were killed. And we just wanted to come home.
Now, talking about the activities of Kobe, General Kobe, the late General Shapedi, were they individual actions or were the actions endorsed by the ECOMOG High Command and by extension
well, Kobe
were
helped
the
us.
actions endorsed by the Sierra Leonean, Nigerian government or by ECOWAS, so to say?
When Kobe helped us, he was Chief of Defense Staff of the Sierra Leonean Army. So, and he never took us to any meeting with any other Sierra Leonean Army staff. No. In fact, I myself went to Longi for 3 weeks and I was helping the Nigerian soldiers there who were guarding the airport to do patrols. And I was armed. And I was sitting in cars provided by the sub-region. They saw us as enemy. What happened was when the RUF attacked Freetown, you have to understand that conventional military people cannot fight guerrilla war easily in a city without their bombardment, the aircraft and all these things, not in the forest. The Nigerians and Ghanaians and even Kobe were relying on us, the people who stay in the Liberian war, who knew how to do it, who have been there and done that, to help them fight. And we did it. And in Sierra Leone, we probably lost more than 200 men fighting to defuse and neutralize the RUF and restore democracy to that country because we believe President Tijakama was the legitimate leader of Sierra Leone. He was elected and he had to do his turn. So we had a mission, a double mission, help the sub-regional forces to subdue the RUF, and through that we will build our own capacity to come home. But Kobe was convinced Taylor was not ready to yield unless the MPFL as a military machine was neutralized militarily.
Okay, if we should just maybe, I would say, stray a little bit from the corner in which we're in.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you talked about your re-entry into Monrovia as having been facilitated by General Shapedi, Kobe.
Our General Shapiri's plane that brought us.
Yeah.
12-seater.
So that question also, the previous question also extends to this. Was there just rogue action on the part of General Shapiri, or was it with the acquiescence of the Nigerian Military High Command or the ECOWAS High Command?
If I look back at everything that happened, I can only guess that probably General Shapiri was trying to set Johnson up. Because he said he was in Nigeria. When we got in Nigeria, he was not there. Then when we checked, he was going to Burkina Faso. What was he doing in Burkina Faso? That was still us real base. So something happened that I don't know about. I cannot say he took a bribe or anything. But on the day before September 18 happened, General Shapiri withdrew the buffer force. He should not have done that. Because if the force had stayed, and he should have beefed the force up when the Taylor government forces show up, he did not. He withdrew his men. So in other words, go ahead, eat them up. He chunked us to the dogs. And we fought an 18-hour battle in which General Tekuya died. And I had to stay in Monrovia, I think 3 or 4 more months before I escaped. So Shapiri must have acted not on behalf of ECOWAS. And you know, there's one thing for an institution to send you somewhere and the human weakness will come in, especially in a region where diamonds and a lot of money was flying around.
Now, against the backdrop of what you just explained, and having this as knowledge beforehand, prior knowledge that General Shapiri had gone to Burkina Faso, raising your suspicion and all of that, would you not now, on reflection, consider your re-entry into Monrovia with Roosevelt Johnson as an act of provocation?
Provoking who? Charles Taylor, how did he enter Liberia? He passed through Butuo. He provoked somebody. I was not provoking Charles Taylor. I wanted to come home. And I didn't want this man to leave before, Abdul Mohammed to leave. So General Johnson again was the guy calling the shots. I was just there to escort him because the man had a stroke, probably had a black spot on his brain. He was not well, and the people abandoned him. And I said, no, it can't happen. I will take him home. I came with him. Supu refused to come with us out of fear. And I could see why, because it was dangerous, to have come to Monrovia under those conditions. Of course, when we came, we didn't just get on Camp Johnson Road and started opening fire because we didn't have arms. How can we provoke a president when we're not armed? What were we depending on? Taylor could have even come and done it another way, but Taylor wanted to do things his way, period. So if I know somebody is living Looking Town, right in my territory, and I know this person was a warlord or a former rebel leader, the last thing I would do is to try to arrest him and start a fight. I can talk to the political leaders, we can bring him. How long did it take?
But in a situation where Johnson's followers on Kim Johnson Road had in a way made Kim Johnson Road like a no-go area, stopping cars at will and searching cars, searching pedestrians passing through, creating the impression that here was a mini republic within a republic. And in a way, forcing the government into a stance where it had to react. Don't you think that this was the case?
But what you may not know, just like the people who have been kidnapped and carried to various parts of our country we can see today, what you did not know that anybody that came out of Camp Johnson Road that Taylor people made up in Congo Town, they will catch you and carry you to Watanga base. We rescued several people there, some died. So probably it might have been a response on their part. That was not right. Nobody was supposed to stop any car, molest civilians, or do anything. Steal people, small things. I was not into that. In fact, I started to negotiate. I thought when Blambo Nelson called me to meet him at the Catholic Justice and Peace place, After he was the level head on that side and I the level head on the other side, so we should get together and have meeting, even if not at the highest level, at the mid-level, to diffuse the situation. It didn't happen. Taylor wanted to have his way, and I think he did. And then when he did, he created a condition for us to go in exile in our big numbers. It was that condition that was exploited by Maxwell Kobe to defend Sierra Leone.
Well, okay, granted that, but if we just move on a bit, since this was not considered an act of, but let me just ask, when you arrived in Monrovia, were you circumscribed to Kim Johnson Road? Did you have the liberty to move around the city and all of that?
Oh yes, I went places. Probably usually at night. I didn't think Taylor holding a reconciliation conference was even going to attempt to arrest Roosevelt Johnson again. You see, that's why I talk about neurotic compulsion. You did it April 6th, it didn't work. You want to do it. There were leaders here who could have put Roosevelt Johnson on control. The man was not armed. But because of the way April 6th ended, and the peace process did not give room to take care of those combatants, either relocate them or reintegrate them or give them some kind of rehabilitation, they just clustered up on Kim Johnson Road. So they saw themselves, they saw their number as the only defense they had. You know, and people didn't think that these people were human beings who needed to eat after the war, who had children to go to school, because probably they were Roosevelt Johnson's crown people, you know, so they can go to hell. I'm sorry for the language.
That brings me to the question of what you mentioned in your presentation.
Yes.
As the failure of the DDR program.
Right.
Which subsequently led us to war.
Right.
And has created a potential basis for a relapse in the conflict, according to you.
Exactly.
So how, in your opinion, was the approach to the DDR fundamentally flawed to the extent that it permitted or facilitated or enhanced?
First of all, I got a question. First of all, I talk about the tripod. Any peace agreement that stands on three legs, if you remove one, it will not stand. If you have election and you disarm, ECOWAS did not restructure the security forces, so it was bound to fall. The thing was completely bound to fall. Then, when they had a meeting, because during my experience with the interim government, I learned a few things. Charles Ocholo at the JIU had a meeting with political parties and civil society people, some Liberians. And then he said we have to rehabilitate and give some of these combatants money to go do business, to go to school, to do this. Do you know who objected? Civil society and political party people. No. Don't rehabilitate these combatants. Charles Ocholo told me that. They kill our people. So don't rehabilitate them. Don't give them any money. So I don't know how many dollars they gave to each combatant in 1997 after they disarmed them, and I still don't know why, up to today's date, the United Nations system has not searched Monrovia for arms, you know, after a failed DDRR.
So do you believe that there are arms in significant numbers hidden around Monrovia?
Exactly, plenty. Gas stations, septic tanks, all kinds of arms all over the place. I was able to dig up some arms during the interim, and those arms are caught with cuckoo dennis. Among those arms was a shoulder-fire surface-to-air missile that was capable, that had heat-seeking capabilities, and was capable of taking down any aircraft. So I brought in OMIL, I brought in the LMP, brought Kuku Dene to Defense Ministry. I said, Omer, because Larry gave me this position in Accra, I'm not going to just move on you and arrest you. Please explain to us how he came by these weapons. Of course, Kuku Dennis had nothing real to say, but he surrounded the weapons, and we gave them to Omil, and they took the weapons away. So I believe there are weapons. In fact, the way the DDR went, and because of the bureaucracy within the UN system, when the big people say you take 200 ounces per day because of finance, 2,000 people show up at the disarmament site and they take only 250 arms. Pay those who give them the 250 arms. The rest of the people, 750, go back, walk for 3 more days in the bush and never brought their arms back. Because some people walked for 3 days, brought their arm. There were far-flung areas in our country, like River G, all those places where real disarmament never took place. And you know, when you leave one AK-47 here in River G, 5 years later, you can find it in Conakry. Guns like money have a tendency to migrate. And as they migrate with former combatants.
So you believe that in addition to what you're saying about arms stashed around Monrovia, would you believe that there also, can you extend that argument to the rest of the countryside? That there may be arms stashed in the countryside?
Yes. Here are arms buried. In fact, according to the UN, let me say this. According to the UN, they only took 20% of the assumed arms total that they expected to get. They took 20%. So what happened to the 80%? That is why they launched what they call arms for development, to buy the arms for the community and put development there. But the problem with that program is that probably it's not the community leaders and other people that got the arms. And given the way some of the rebel commanders on the field treated some of these people, they may not be ready to show where the arms are. The rebel leaders, commanders probably want individual compensation. But the arms are in this country. And I just want to digress a little bit, if you will permit me, that as we do this TRC thing in Liberia, we should not look ourselves in isolation. We should know what is happening now. Ivory Coast to our east is in a no peace, no war state. The same state of affairs that prevailed in 1992 that led to Octopus. And it is my estimate that unless they disarm, there will be a showdown, because no peace, no war is a recipe for war. Then, so it's a dangerous situation. Additionally, there are more than 10,000 Liberian combatants in Cote d'Ivoire on both sides of the war with the new forces and the Gbagbo government. What strategy can we devise as a nation to know and discuss with those people so that they come home properly? So the Liberian war, if you look at it, is still being fought by proxy in Cote d'Ivoire. Then you look at Guinea. Guinea has been troubled recently by a succession problem. My old man, civil society want him out. He's not ready to go. L'homme qui veut pas partir. In French. He's not ready to go. All kinds of demonstration. Sierra Leone and Guinea now are this close to shooting war over a piece of land at their own border, Yanga. You know, so if Guinea breaks down, believe me, there will be arms filtering more into Liberia. Then we look at Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is probably our safest border. But you have to understand that the whole border with Sierra Leone, Pujaun district, that's the home of the 90,000 strong Kamajors. Our surroundings don't look good, Comrade Stewart. And that is why the last question, the question of recommendations, we have to look at our surroundings. What is it that we are going to do that will help to diffuse those situations, including ours? Because you can close everything here do what you want to do. And if it's not a proper mechanism to address the question of the 10,000 Liberians in the Ivorian War, we are in trouble.
So in other words, to the best of your understanding, there still doesn't appear to be a concerted approach to disarmament, demobilization, and demilitarization and reintegration, so to speak, within the Mana River basin to include the Ivory Coast.
Yes, there is not. I think our regional leaders, you see, our people have a dependency syndrome. It should not be the United Nations that should be talking security between Guinea and Liberia. We have to sit. Even recently, the madam at the foreign ministry, the new mansion, had some meeting here with the leaders of Mana River Basin, to talk about these same issues. Do you know that arms that Liberians disarmed with in 1997 are now in the delta of Nigeria, killing Nigerians with the Delta rebels? The migration of arms and former combatants is a threat to democracy in our region. And we must play, people like us who are being armed fashion, you need to use us to do disarmament. But everybody in our system now, they're so clean. These are dirty people, they kill people. We need to go try all of them. But the armed robbery still going on. You don't solve the problem if you kill Joe Wylie. You don't solve the problem if you kill Roland Duo or Kuku Dennis. It's not going to be solved. In fact, the Liberian peace process is the process in which the former combatants have not given the peace process a major choke. It is the corruption of the politicians that is also a threat to this peace process. The money that is slated to give to the children, other people are eating it. We ain't got money. The budget is low. The this is that. And African governments usually do not pay attention to security. Probably with the exception of Ghana. Because Ghana has one of the best practices in terms of security sector management. I did a course in Ghana for 1 month. Security sector governance and management. In our situation, the managers and supervisors of security think they are the governors.
Mr. Witness, you're a security expert, and as you dialogue on these issues, I want you to kindly take into consideration issues of national security that you wouldn't want to talk in details on. Yes.
National security?
Yeah.
We are here because of national security. We don't want to fight again. We don't want a situation where hidden arms can come and kill our people. In fact, in my studies, and I just had a workshop, the Small Arms Commission of the Foreign Ministry, they invited me. The experts they invited from abroad did not show up. So they said, my man, come and do the job for us. I spoke that day. There are 5 sources of the leaking of arms into our society. There are 8 million pieces of light weapons and small arms within the Mana River Basin alone. Majority of those weapons are in the hands of what we call incomplete studies, non-state actors. How do we get those arms and build democracy at the same time? It's something we have to juggle as a region. So the transnational security issues that are here, you can save Liberia, clear Liberia, but you don't clean Guinea, thing will come to Liberia. If you save Guinea and don't take care of Freetown, something will come. Now, it has been proven that it's harder in West Africa to smuggle a bag of cassava across the border than to smuggle an AK-47 because of the financial attachment. If the man has not taken pay for 3-4 months, you have almost 600 miles of border running through wild country from the Atlantic coast, in Cape Mount to Maryland. Somebody brings $300, even $50, you can cross the border with one AK-47. So guns are easier to smuggle than cassava in our region. and the arms are here. They are not just in Liberia, they are in Guinea. So it has to be original approach.
Original approach.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was happy when people started going back. Recently, Madame herself went back, brought Kuruma here from Sierra Leone, President Kuruma, and somebody from Guinea, and they started going back now to the Mana River Basin protection, non-aggression pact and all these things. I think all of our securities should share information, and we should have a joint committee that will meet once a month, and we spot any group of people in any of those countries. It's now our duty to go and arrest them if they are doing funny things, but to report it and to encourage them through other means, all of the violence and arrest, to let them desist from what they are doing. I can guarantee you here today that for the rest of the time I have to live in Liberia, if you take on me to help the region, to find the arms, to make peace, to share security information, I'm ready to do that. But I must tell you that we still have serious security problems in this region, especially in our country, with Cote d'Ivoire sitting on a time bomb with no peace, no war. You don't know what will happen. Nasran Conte died natural death in Guinea. Anything could happen. So I came here to speak the truth, and I'm sorry if I violated any national security, ordinance.
Okay, within that light, prior to the disarmament that preceded elections,
Right.
in 2005, there was a stipulation that all factions, and this was a stipulation, I think, that even preceded this last disarmament,
Right.